And I hope we are live, guys. I think we are live. Welcome to the Indie Games Podcast, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. It really does mean a lot to me to see you in there. We have got a cool show planned for you guys tonight. More indie goodness. We always love bringing that indie goodness into your lives. And as I say, thank you so much for being here to share that with us, because that is what it is all about, sharing that indie games goodness in the community. So thank you again for being here. As I say, we've got a cool show planned today, actually. We've got some fairly juicy topics potentially. We've got some a bit of a wind up or roundup of the Indie World Showcase. We're going to potentially be diving into some of the PlayStation situation at the moment, which is being looked at potentially. just maybe giving our opinions on how we feel about PlayStation's tactics as a whole. Are they going too full in on the business side of going for the money, going for the $70 games all the time and just focusing on those big AAAs? And are they neglecting indies, essentially? And also we're going to be diving into Crowsworn, which is a cool new game reveal. And potentially, if we get time, we may dive into some E3 goodness and some other upcoming game showcases too. But firstly, it's an absolute honour to be able to welcome in three of my very good friends to this show. It's an absolute pleasure to have them back on and to be able to chat indie games with them once again. I'm going to start with Puxley this time. How is it going, Puxley? Thank you so much for being back on. It is always an absolute delight. What have you been up to, my friend, and how are you doing? Welcome back to the show.
Yes, evening, Indy. Thanks again for having me on. Very much always enjoyed doing these shows. As always, love talking indie games, indie goodness.
Good
in terms of what I've been playing, you might like me this week, actually. So I've actually finally bought myself Pumpkin Jack on the Xbox, and I finished it yesterday.
Nice, that's good going.
I found all the crows, I bought all the costumes, but I don't know about you, but then I bought all the costumes in the store, and then the achievement didn't pop up. And then I kind of underanalyzed why that was. I looked online, and apparently it's a well-known bug. It's been in place for a long time. Apparently it exists on PC as well. Because there's two achievements. There's one to get like the clothes, or to get all the different skins, which is glitched. But then there's another achievement, which is the achievement is to basically get every other achievement in the game, if that makes sense.
I see, yeah,
so
cool.
There's like two more that I can't get just because of this glitch, and apparently there's a fix in the works, and I'm trying to get to it at some point. So I'm just having to sit there waiting for this thing just so I can get the final achievements. But no,
that is awesome.
Fell in love with the game. I felt like playing a 3D platformer. I jumped in, and I just fell in love with it. I know I played the demo. I know it came out back in November, but I just didn't get around to buying it or to playing it. But then I kept looking at it in the store, and it was calling me. So I decided to take the plunge, and I'm really liking it.
That's cool. How many hours did it take you to beat the campaign?
Well, I played kind of in my hour lunch break during the week, and then I played a bit in afterwards as well, maybe for an hour or two in the evenings.
Nice.
But I finished early on Friday, so I kind of played for about 2 or 3 hours Friday afternoon just to kind of finish up getting the one or two crows that I'd missed in some of the levels and finding all of the gramophones.
Nice.
I think, I don't know, maybe about 10 hours worth of gameplay to go through it all and find everything. So
good stuff.
Yeah, not bad at all. I really enjoyed it.
Did you happen to see the announcement from the same developer who has announced his new game by any chance?
Yes, I did, and I've shared the tweets and everything. His new game, was it called a Kimbot, if I remember rightly?
That's it. That's the one. Yeah.
I saw the trailer. Oh man, I'm excited for it already. I can't wait to see what comes out of that.
Yeah, it looks very interesting, actually. My only slight criticism may be that it does look slightly too similar to Pumpkin Jack, but I think the gameplay looks absolutely awesome. Gameplay seems different, but I think he maybe could do a slight aesthetic visual sort of change potentially, just to differentiate it from Pumpkin Jack. But it does look really cool. Did you get that?
Yeah, I did get that vibe. I'm wondering, because it's basically one guy that did it over 2 years, wasn't it? So I'm wondering if maybe he's just trying to reuse a lot of what he's made already.
Seems
in terms
that way,
of the code base, and then just reskinning it a bit. I don't know, but yeah, overall, I thought the trailer looked really good. Quite excited
does look
for
good.
It.
Does look really good. Yeah, that is awesome, my friend. Well, thanks very much for being back on. Because we talked about you mentioning Pumpkin Jack a few times, and actually, just quickly before we go on, I've noticed you're doing a bit of development lately. Is that potentially put in as research for the development as well as enjoyment? Playing some 3D platformers, would you say?
So for anyone that doesn't know what you're talking about, I've been delving more into Unreal Engine, learning that recently. In my bid to become a bit employable.
Nice.
So that's the main reason why I'm learning, but I also want to do some side projects with it and stuff, because, again, for those who don't know, I've been using the Unity engine in my spare time for about 3 years now, just putting small things together.
Yes.
But especially where I live in the southeast, most companies which do exist around my way / kind of outer bounds of London is mainly like Unreal Engine or C++ level stuff. So I kind of thought I'd take the plunge. And
awesome.
Really enjoying it so far. And I thought I'd finally use my game dev Twitter handle I'd actually actively use it, and I thought I'd post videos or small clips as and when.
Yes.
And so I would like to make a platformer someday. That's still the dream.
Awesome.
Still got a bit of a ways to go yet, but I'm I'll probably maybe have a go on Unreal Engine at some point. But as I say, I've got to build up my skills first, and then I'll jump in and I'll update my Twitter, and I'm sure you'll all find out about it.
That's brilliant, my friend. Yeah, and I've been enjoying seeing that come up on your Twitter, because I know, I can see you've got so much talent, and it's great to see you following that dream, my friend. So I wish you best on that.
Nah, thanks.
Good stuff. So moving on from there, we have got Puxley's partner in crime over at the Green Pass Gaming Camp, actually, on today's show again. I've been hanging out with Luke quite a bit lately, actually, and it's an absolute blast always. I think he's an awesome guy, just like Puxley. It's always a pleasure chatting games with you, my friend, and thank you so much for coming back on again. Luke Still, how are you doing, brother?
Oh, thank you very much. Great to be back. Always love being here and chatting games with you and the panel. And there's some really cool topics today, so I'm looking forward to it. In terms of what I've been playing, I guess I've actually been on quite a bit of an indie kick recently. As you know,
you're trying to please me.
I did my prep.
I love it.
Research.
I mean, as you know, because you wouldn't stop talking to me about it and telling me to get it. I've got Ghost Runner now.
That is the legendary thing.
Yes, which is a really fantastic game, and I really would recommend people check that out. There's actually a demo on Steam if you want to try it before you buy it. Which is quite it's quite a meaty chunk. It's kind of a half an hour demo.
Definite
punk parkour ninja-ish. Like, you can't really go wrong. It looks fantastic. It's kind of a AAA looking game.
So you've put in a few hours on that, have you, so far?
Yeah, I'm about I think I'm about 2 and a bit hours in, nearly 3 hours probably. So a pretty, a fair chunk of it done. I did get weirdly stuck on this bit kind of 40 minutes in, which I don't know why, I just really struggled.
You get that with the game, actually. Yeah, I found there's a few bits where you just have to sort of really dig in, or rethink your tactics, if you see what I mean, because it's quite intense at points, and you can keep repeating because it's so instantaneous, the respawn, isn't it? You're like, right, keep doing it. But I know what you mean. I've had that a few times, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? Because sometimes you just look at part of the challenge and you're like, oh, that should be pretty straightforward, and then all of a sudden you get stuck on it for 35 minutes and you're like, what's going on?
Absolutely.
So I've been playing that, and I've also picked up Apple Arcade.
Nice. I had that for a while, actually.
Yeah, there's a lot of really cool games on it.
There is.
I play it through an iPad Pro with a controller usually.
Nice.
And I've been playing Fantasian, which is the new game from Mistwalker, who people will probably remember for Blue Dragon and Lost Odyssey on the Xbox 360. Right,
lovely. I don't. Go on, sorry. I don't remember myself. Sorry, you carry on.
No, so that's it's a JRPG, and it uses these really incredible. They're almost like, I guess, pre-rendered backgrounds, but not quite. They're like dioramas, so to speak. You can kind of manipulate the camera around these environments in a really unique way, and it's just
nice.
It's just a super cool thing.
So kind of like in that puzzle game, the Gardens Between, is that kind of vibe, is it?
Yeah, it's that kind of vibe. Yeah.
Nice, cool.
So it's really cool. So I've been playing that and the Pathless as
well.
Oh,
that is a massive game to have in Apple Arcade, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and it's a really good one as well. It's really cool. So yeah, been quite busy.
It's worth it just for that, and then unsub if you know what I mean. Almost not the saying that you would do that.
It's a pretty, as you say, it's like it's a big game.
Them,
right. And it's it runs really well.
Nice. That's great. I really want to play because I haven't played a Pathless yet. I did cancel my Apple Arcade quite a while back. I played like Sayonara Wild Hearts. That's worth playing, by the way, on there.
Yeah, that's a cool game. Yeah,
that's really cool.
Game.
Oh, you've played that already? Nice. Yeah, there are some cool ones on there, actually. Obviously, a lot of people go, no, it's Apple, you know what I mean? But as we know, we both have Apple. I used to use Apple a lot more, but now I use PC, but I still have an Apple as well, a Mac as well. But yeah, that's cool, buddy. Just quickly, a few people are saying that your audio's a bit low. It's quite weird because you're actually clipping and your audio is a little bit low. So what I would recommend is getting a little bit further away from the mic and turning up the gain a little bit if you have
cool.
that. So
it's me.
Sorry about that, buddy. Yeah, you're a little bit distorting, so you're maybe a little bit further away, and then, like I say, turn it up some to compensate, and hopefully we'll get a good balance. Sorry, my friend. We will get there, guys. Just let us know if there's anyone else who needs to tweak it. We'll get it just right for you all. But yeah, absolute pleasure to have you back on, Luke. Thank you so much for being here, buddy. And finally, a returning guest from the show. He was been on once before. It was an absolute pleasure. Someone who has an indie-centric YouTube channel, who's now he's actually branched out a little bit from the indie stuff. I do believe he said recently. A little bit. Yeah. You're going to change today. You're going to be like, no, it's all indie today.
Yeah. It's all indie when I'm on the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, and he's also started up a recent thing, which is a 1-minute review, which is pretty damn awesome.
It's one breath review.
Oh, is it one breath? Sorry, of course it is one breath. Usually about a minute though, because of the shorts, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I have to cram everything in.
Definitely. So definitely worth checking it out for that. He's got some great comedy aspects to his channel, as well as some great insights to indie games. So I highly recommend checking it out in the description below. But I'd just like to welcome It's Dare back onto the show today. How are you doing, my friend?
Thanks. I'm doing very, very, very well. Especially as you mentioned, my one breath review series seemed to be going quite well. My one breath review of Hollow Knight has been, I think, maybe one of my first videos to have been like suggested a lot throughout the YouTube channels.
That's nice. Good stuff.
So it's almost at 3,000 views, which is really, really good for my
very
channel.
nice.
And my first one for Little Nightmares 2 hit the shorts algorithm pretty well with 35K. So that was amazing.
Definite.
So yeah, I'm doing very, very well at the moment.
No, it's great. It's great to see you getting some. Oh yeah, Luke's dropped out to sort his mic out. By the way, guys, he'll be back.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe he wants to check it himself. So and then he'll be able to. It's probably the best way, actually. So yeah, ding 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 ding. What was I going to say? Yes, it's great to see you getting some. Your subs have grown quite a bit recently, which is fantastic. I'm loving seeing that. And yeah, your content is excellent. So I've been a fan for years. It probably is. So it's good to see you getting. So it's great to have you back on, my friend. And yeah, we're sure we're going to dive into some good indie goodness today. Yeah, good stuff. I'm not sure how long Luke will be. Hopefully he'll be back. Well, what we'll do is we'll come to Luke last on the first topic. But yeah, what we'll do, guys, is firstly quickly shout out you guys in the chat. It's an absolute pleasure to see you in. Thank you so much for being here. You're awesome. It's awesome to see Subs Gaming in, as always, a great supporter. Thank you very much, my friend, and a great friend too, of course. Thank you for being here, Stubbs Z. Really appreciate it. Assassin Looper, exactly the same for you. You are a legend. Always love our chats about indie games and everything else too. Thank you so much for being here. 2DOS Games is in the house. This is the developer of the Iron Corbo Kung Fu Janitor game you may have seen on the Idea Xbox showcase, by the way, guys, if you didn't know. So it's great to see you in. Thank you very much for being here. Loving the look of your game. Judzilla is in the house. Thank you so much for being here, Juds. You rock, brother. Shizno Elite is in. Thank you so much for being here, Shizno. You rock with the Ghost Runner love. Pixel Slapper, shout out to you, my friend. Meisuko, Michael Garvey. And who else do we have in? Infinite in the house. Thank you very much for being here, brother. And Phantom Sloth, I do believe that says. And Teleagonic is in the house too. Thank you so much, guys. Everyone who is here, you rock big time, and it means the world to have you here. So just quickly before we move on, actually, because I know Luke is probably a bit. Oh, Luke's just popped back. Maybe I was just going to say, actually, in response to his Ghost Runner thing, I just wanted to shout out Ghost Runner once more, because that game is damn awesome, and I finished it this last week. Although it's maybe not an indie game anymore because they've kind of been acquired by 505 now. That IP has, so it was a bit of a grey area whether it was actually an indie anyway, because there was collaboration between a few small studios, so it was quite a grey area one. But I just want to say Ghost Runner is so damn good, guys. If you like to have a challenge in your games, and if you enjoy kind of like amazing, obviously, cyberpunk visuals, which are absolute drop dead gorgeous, and I'm tapping with my PC on the top of it, saying well done to you, because you've done well, because it's a good test for my PC, because it did pretty well at handling it, actually, which it's probably the hardest I've pushed it so far, because I play a lot of indies, obviously. And yeah, I just thought they look fantastic. The music is amazing. You feel like an absolute beast when you're playing it, when you're on a run. It's just fantastic. And yeah, Luke, how is your mic sounding, my friend? Did you manage to get it good?
Is this any better now?
Oh, it's glorious.
There we go. Yeah. There we go. Good.
Beautiful.
Good.
Thank you very much, my friend. That was probably a good plan.
Just rather than me just making lots of booms,
pressing loads of buttons,
trying to test. So that's good. Yeah, Ghost Runner it looks fantastic. Like it really does. Yeah, it's such a great looking game.
And you've got that ray tracing running as well, haven't you? Does that make quite a lot of difference?
It does, yeah. So it looks really nice with the ray tracing. It's I think it just uses ray trace reflections. I think that's the kind of extent of it, which obviously in a cyberpunk environment is really good, because you have a lot of reflective surfaces.
Absolutely,
it's super demanding though. It's very demanding.
Yeah, that's what I found. I had to put it on DirectX 11, which is basically, you probably know more, but is that basically without ray tracing, but the same thing essentially? When I put cool.
If it's on DX11, you just don't have the ray tracing element. Yeah,
because I was running DX12 when I was first playing it, and there was times where it slowed down a little bit, even if I didn't have ray tracing turned on, and I was like, this is a bit annoying. And then when I put it on DX11, it was absolutely rock solid, even though I was pushing all of the graphics to the full, and I was running it 120 frames per second and stuff. So did you try out the 120 frames in the end?
I did. So I was running it. I was running it at max settings at 4K with DLSS on, with ray tracing, and getting a steady 60 FPS out of it, and that was very nice. And then I turned the ray tracing off and didn't change anything else. Yep. In fact, no, sorry, I turned the ray tracing off, turned DLSS off to see what native resolution would look like, and I got a locked 4K 120.
Yeah.
So, which shows you the impact of the ray tracing.
Exactly.
Alone,
yeah,
right?
it's very, very big trend.
So yeah, I got it completely locked, and it's pretty glorious playing it at 4K one. To the extent I probably won't turn ray tracing back on, because I just think the frame boost is just
That is epic.
Incredible.
Yeah. See, that is what I think. I mean, if I don't have 4K monitor, I have 1440. I'm running 1440p. So you've got more of a beast than me. That is a fact. I would never get that, I don't think. But I'm not too bothered about the 4K. But I mean, if I'd have it, if someone gave it to me, I'd be like, go on then, I'd take it. You know.
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah. 1440p always looks like really good, especially on small monitors and stuff.
Exactly.
It's super crisp, so
I mean, obviously you've got the glorious setup, which is awesome. But
I'm really going to work out.
Yeah, that's good. It's good to test that. That's like mine is like, but I was really pleased with the result of it, and yeah, it looks awesome. I highly recommend Ghost Runner, especially if you enjoy a challenge. As I say, that's probably a good thing to say, because people might get shocked. So, it can be a bit tough, but it actually it puts you back in so quickly when you die. You just got to remember that dying is part of the process. I always say, if you know what I mean. So, if it's just. You come back, you beat them, you just sort of try a different tactic, whatever. But yeah, it gets pretty intense at the end. I look forward to hearing how your journey goes.
Lots of slamming on the desk.
Definitely. I mean, actually, I think I did find I got stuck on a bit earlier in the game more than I did at some bits later in that, if that makes sense. So it's kind of, it doesn't go too ramped high, if you know what I mean. It's kind of it's quite consistent. So
it's got as well. It's quite unforgiving, not unforgiving, but its checkpointing system works such that you can kind of do almost everything in like an area.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you die, and then you're right back at the beginning. Like it's just like, no, you don't get any.
You do need to be. You'd have to be a level in a go. Yeah, that's the only thing I struggled with, because I was like, it was like really late, and I was like, oh my god, I just need to save now. I'm near the end of the level. I got to beat it, man. I got to go to bed though. I was just like trying to hold my eyes open, trying to like beat a level. So, but I love that. It's the intensity they were going for, and I think it's a brave thing that they went down that route, and I'm glad they did. So definitely. Awesome stuff, guys. Well, that's fantastic. Let's get on then, guys, and we're all set now, I do believe, with audio, etc. And thank you everyone for being here once again, and we're going to dive straight into the first topic, which is going to be the Indie World Showcase, guys. Like you may have seen on the channel, we did do a live reaction show of it, but in fact when we got to the end of the live reaction, I was kind of like, I was just so, it goes past you so quick, and I was like, I can't even think what my favorite things are. So it was kind of like a necessity to sort of take it all in again and then come back to it like we're doing now. And I got a real good perspective now that what I actually really loved about the show. I hope that's the same for you guys. But yeah, we're going to dive into that now and recap, basically, because these shows do fly past extremely quickly, as I say, and there's much to be admired, essentially. But yeah, let me just pull up my stream there, because I've totally lost that and minimized it. Yeah, let's move over to the indie world. And just before though, I just wanted to make a little point here, guys, which is quite I don't want to slag off Xbox or anything, but let me just bring up a little thing I've screenshot on the screen here. Have a look at that on your screen. How many views does it have? That was screenshot today of the Indie World Showcase. 2.4 million views of the Indie World Showcase. Xbox. So indies do get views if you put them on the channel. You see what I'm saying? Xbox have done it on like the wrong way, and I just need to think about that. I don't mean to just like highlight them and just point at them and laugh or whatever, but come on, maybe that's something.
They had multiple Nintendo channels showcasing the same.
That's true. Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
So that's not all of the views. Yeah. It's quite significant, really. I mean, we've sort of dived into the idea Xbox a lot already, but I just thought it was important, like, really to bring it up, because people may think, oh, indies don't get much views anyway, but they do if you do it right. So like indie worlds have been done right, for a while. It's some people still didn't know about them, but they do get these views, like I say. They're once a quarter. They do it in a nice quick sort of fashion, and it really is people don't get fatigued when watching it. They take it in and soak it up. And 2.4 million, like I say, on just the main Nintendo channel. If Xbox did a showcase, they should put it onto the main Xbox channel. Is the main point of this, I think. They've put it on a Twitch channel, and they also have an Idea Xbox channel, which kind of maybe defeats the object, getting them into the view of everyone. But maybe, yeah. What did you think about that quickly? Just a quick whip round, and then we'll get into the games, guys, while I get that ready. What did you think? I think Xdare's chomping at the bit to have a little word on that, maybe. What did you think about the process?
I think you're totally correct that it's just so well done. It's fast. It's pretty fast, but not so fast that you don't know what's going on. And there's not a lot of fluff in it. It's very much straight to the case, straight to the chase. And you even though it's so quick and everything, it's 20-minute compressed, full of stuff. But there's still like sort of small interviews, so you get to see a little bit about who's some of the developers, and I really like that, because you get to see some of the persons behind the games. And that's really, really nice, even though it's so compressed and great. I mean, yeah, I really think Nintendo is doing an amazing job with indie games for the Switch.
Yes.
Also because the Switch seems to be like such a the Switch and indie games are such a perfect fit, because indie games don't really require a whole lot of graphical power. And the Switch, you can have it with you everywhere. So like you can always boot up Hollow Knight or whatever.
Absolutely,
on the road. I think that's such a great fit. I mean, if the Nintendo Switch if there's coming an upgraded one later this year, I'm definitely buying it day one if I can get it.
Nice, my friend. So, how about yourself, Luke? Well, I mean, you don't have to dive into this too much, but like, is there anything you wanted to add about the fact that how Nintendo do it as a contrastly?
Yeah, I mean, they just nail it, don't they? They've done this for so long that they know exactly how to do any of these kind of pre-recorded showcases, especially the indie ones, which have been going on for a long time, and they tend to be a lot more frequent than their own directs, which they might do maybe 2 of, maybe 3 a year most. And yeah, I think you're spot on in that. Xbox need to just do this. I just don't know
that's
why
what I keep
people
saying.
just don't. Like it's like Sony with their state of plays, right? It's a shameless rip-off of a direct, but it works because that format, like, I don't really care if people are aping each other in how they're doing these events, because all I want to do is watch, have a quick show. It doesn't need to be super long, it doesn't need to have really extended interviews, it just needs to show content quickly in a nice way, and not too much talking. A bit's fine, and having the little kind of developer voiceovers is really cool when it's not too long. I mean, it was literally the direct antithesis of the Xbox Twitch stream, right? It was just the complete opposite.
It's highlighted it, really, hasn't it? Because it's the timings as well, isn't it? Just kind of showing it up.
Exactly, yeah, and it's just like there's no, the Xbox one, there was so much dead air in between, like, when it came back to the host and stuff. It was just like this really forced, weird banter. You just like, stop. Like, I know. Just stop this. Whereas the Nintendo Directs are just, or rather the indie worlds are just kind of one after the other. There's no dead air. There's no wasted space. It's all very, very efficient. So yeah, it's a lot better.
Definitely. And well said, Luke, my friend. And Puxley, my friend, your little take on that before we dive into the games.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat as the other guys, really. Yeah, I mean, with the Xbox shows, as Luke's just said, they kind of, the interview bits in the middle just went on for far too long. I think in some cases it was like 15 minutes or something of a 4-hour show. It's just listening to almost the same questions be asked in different ways constantly, which really annoyed. I mean, I got to points and I watched that Idea Xbox show that I actually had to walk away from it and just not watch it for 15-20 minutes just to see if the interviews stopped yet, because it was just dragging on for far too long. But the way the Indie World did it, when you could still see like each of the little interviews they did as part of this Indie World showcase, so you can actually see the people behind it, get a view of who they are, and you can kind of sense their passion for the project, which is all really good to see, but only in a nice 30-second to maybe a minute chunk, and I think that's perfect, and that's all it needs to be.
Exactly, and that's a good point, because you don't have to miss out on what they did, if you see what I mean. You just have to package it right, if you know what I mean. Like, exactly, yeah. Yeah, so you've still got those interviews, which are great. I love hearing from developers; it's so great. But it has to be the right amount of time, like you just said there, and I think that's exactly what they do well on the indie worlds. And like I say, it would be great if they did. If Xbox did do something like this and post it to the main Xbox channel as well, because people would it would get into people's attention who maybe don't usually check it out, and it would get a lot of exposure. Obviously, they got a lot of followers on that channel. But yeah, cool, good stuff, guys. So yeah, maybe we'll go back round again, and we're going to sort of just dive into maybe some of what you thought of the thing as a whole, and maybe some of your favourite games. Feel free to shout them out. I'll try and pull them up as we go. I'll try and be on the workstation at the back end, hopefully pulling up some to make it all concise and everything. But yeah, it's there, my friend. What were some of your highlights from the Indie World Showcase? Well,
there were 3 games in particular that I really thought, oh my god, that looks awesome. The first one was Road 96, which was funnily enough the first one of the showcase. I mean, there's something about the low poly stylized art style that just, I'm so predictable. Like, that's just straight up my alley, and I almost love it instantly. That's so weird.
Love it.
But that's just who I am. And I feel like I'm very impressed, but I'm at the same time a little bit scared about it, because they're talking about this procedural narrative. Like, things are happening on top of each other that is random, and you get a new story each time. But
that's right.
I'm a little bit scared whenever I hear something like this, especially from an indie perspective, because you can't make up total new stuff. You have to have these sort of blocks of story content and then lay them on top of each other,
Yep.
So I'm a little bit scared that it.
So it's kind of
ends up in a
roguelike, kind of the way
situation-
it's procedural generation. That's what the number is at the top of the screen, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which is pertaining to the route you're taking, I think.
Yeah, and that's super cool. I mean, but I'm also a little bit scared because that it ends up in this telltale situation where there are story points that you just have to go to.
Yep.
And not like Detroit Become Human, which was a AAA game, but they had the resources to have all of these different elements and branching stories, you know.
Yeah, so you're kind of worried
so
that because
that's-
it's a story game that it might not have the same potency if you might get a bad route or something. Is that what you kind of mean?
Yeah, exactly. I was sort of like not necessarily a bad route because that's just one thing, but like an anticlimactic route, like it's just not gonna keep the pace all throughout the story that you get, and you're not gonna get a satisfying conclusion. To whatever story you get. So that's my main concern, but it looks fantastic.
It sure does
really
look like an
does.
adventure because there's lots going on, isn't there? It's like
There's so much going on. I mean, there's even like a small in the showcase. There's this the Guitar Hero.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, it's cool.
It's very weird, and I like it if they can sort of have these different game elements. Like I just played It Takes Two, which is wow, what a game! But it's so weird because there's so many elements in It Takes Two. Like it's new game mechanics all the time, but it just works because the core mechanic of It Takes Two is cooperation. Yeah, that's the core mechanic.
Yeah,
and it almost doesn't matter how you cooperate then, and it's always a breath of fresh air. Yeah. So I'm very interested to see how it turns out in Road 96.
Very nice, my friend. Yeah, it does look fantastic. Is there any others that you were kind of actually maybe should we come back round? We'll come back round for a couple more if you like. Yeah, if you like. Keep it fresh. lovely stuff, my friend. And Luke, my friend, what was your sort of overall thoughts of the showcase, and what were some highlights games wise?
Yeah, I thought it was great. As I say, it was just it was the right amount of time for that sort of thing, but they managed to cram an awful lot in that time, which was really nice. If I was choosing the thing that I remembered, I guess the most, or that really surprised me, it was probably Ollie Ollie World.
Oh, nice.
So I've played the first two games. I have them on Switch, and they're great. But this one was like such a departure in terms of the art style, and the just the aesthetics overall. It was just so shocking to actually see it in this kind of weird pastel-y sort of hand drawn environment, as it were. So but it just looked so good, and how they're blending the kind of 2D and 3D background stuff is super cool, and it's got like some RPG elements and some story elements, and it just really surprised me, because I would have expected them just to make another Ollie Ollie type game and because they're successful, and it's definitely a formula.
Big, to use one of your words, it's definitely a big departure.
Yes, yeah,
visually.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. So
that's rubbing off on me, that word.
That's the one that stuck with me the most, because it just really did surprise me.
It looks so smooth, doesn't it? It's like silky smooth and lovely. I imagine like playing the actual game will be even better because it's like ramp up to 144 or whatever you can ramp it up to frames per second, and it'll be slick as you like, wouldn't it? But yeah, it looks really cool, and it's definitely a lot different, and the story elements seem quite cool as well, which is a nice little addition. They didn't have story elements in the originals; it was kind of just simple, wasn't it? The score based, I think, was.
Yeah, it was just a score based, 2D skateboarding game, which is awesome. Like, I'd firmly recommend people go and play it. It's a lot of fun, particularly the second one. But this one's just they've just kind of let their imagination go wild with the concept of it, really, and I think that's what's cool.
Definitely, my friend. They're fantastic. We'll do a few whip rounds. But yeah, we'll give it some fantastic choice. And Puxley, my friend, what was your sort of overall take? So you enjoyed the whole thing, and what was some maybe one of your game highlights to start off with?
Yeah, I did really enjoy the show. I always enjoy watching the indie worlds. I think I always have my own expectations set slightly higher than the show actually is, but I think that's my own fault rather than the show. I always get to the end of like watching it live feeling not necessarily underwhelmed, but just a bit whelmed.
Whelmed,
if that makes sense. Like,
yeah.
nothing necessarily took my breath away, so to speak. But
Yep.
when I look back at it again, say the next day, with with hindsight in mind, it's like, I kind of have that fresh take as to actually this looks really good kind of thing. But my one take that I did really enjoy the look of, was Aztec Forgotten Gods.
Nice.
The 3D kind of platforming fighting type game that looked really good fun. Graphically, I thought it looked really good for the Switch as well, because I think there's a few elements during the trailer when it looks like it's relatively like open world, or there's rather open traversal in some of like the overworld sections by the looks of things. And graphically from what I saw there, at least obviously in the small 2-second snippet of trailer that was for those sections, I thought the game looked really good. Let's say even the in-game, the trailer cutscenes look good. They kind of look like they might be in-game cutscenes potentially as well. So I'm hoping it delivers graphically as well as gameplay-wise, because the gameplay looks on point as well.
Absolutely, yeah, it's quite a surprise, that one, actually, definitely. The other great thing as well is just kind of reminded me by saying Switch and stuff. Great thing is, I always find with these indie worlds is because I don't actually play the Switch that much anymore, because I've got a Switch, but it sort of sits there. Now I'm playing on PC. I play all my indies on PC, so that was kind of what I used it for a lot before. But yeah, the good thing is these indie worlds don't just bring kind of like indies kind of for Switch. They bring them for all platforms, which is awesome. Like I was saying in another chat, actually, that Nintendo, this is not really, and obviously it is, but it's not. They don't focus on this is a Nintendo showcase. This is an indie showcase. They put the indies before themselves almost, if you see what I mean, which is what I kind of love. And this is a showcase of indies, and that's why they've gained that sort of foothold, I believe. It's a great way of doing things, and that's a great pick as well, my friend Puxy. Awesome stuff. So let's whip back round to my man It's There, and maybe grab another game from you that caught your eye, my friend.
Yeah, my second one was going to be Aztec as well.
Oh, okay, cool. It's still on the screen.
I'll just add to it that I love the pun.
I saw. I say it's still on the screen, so that's handy.
Yeah. Well, it just occurred to me, like, that's not how you spell Aztec. Oh, tech.
Oh, good point.
And
yeah.
I guess that's just how they sort of got the idea, like combining the Aztec mythology with actual technology.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so fun, and I really, really like old cultures. Like
nice.
Ancient Egypt and the Aztec and everything. It's so interesting to dig into. So yeah, I'm not going to talk about that.
That is totally cool.
I'm just going to say the third one of mine was, and I think maybe everyone loved this, but the Ninja Turtles one, Shredder's Revenge, that looked so good.
So good.
I mean, that's like pixel art at its finest. And it almost looked like an episode of Ninja Turtles from when I was a kid, like the 90s version of them. I mean, it's wow.
It looks awesome, doesn't it? It really does. And obviously, again, that's all platforms, guys. So don't fret if you're not on the Switch for that one.
No, definitely.
And yeah,
it deserves all platforms as well.
It deserves 100%. Yeah, and that one's coming from Tribute Games, isn't it? And they're being published by Dotemu. If that's pronounced correct, I think they're French. So yeah. They did Streets of Rage 4, and that had online co-op. This is one of the questions that a lot of people are asking. So I'm wondering if it's got online co-op, if you see what I mean. So hopefully it's going to have online co-op, because that would be...
Wasn't one of the clips showing 4 players? Yeah, I guess that could be local.
Yeah, I imagine it's going to have online. It's got to do. Please, guys.
But I mean, I've never played Streets of Rage, but I heard only good things about it. So it's really nice to see like developers who know what they're doing. Like gameplay wise, take on like it would be such a shame if a Ninja Turtles game would flop because of bad gameplay, because they have everything going for them in terms of franchise. Definite. Yeah, no, I think it's going to be a blast. Hopefully, obviously that's my assumption, but it just feels great. I mean, there's a lot of big Turtles fans out there, and it's like kind of reminds you like Turtles in Time and all that sort of stuff.
I imagine that a lot of people are excited for this game, so I certainly am. And it's kind of the ones where you just grab your friends and play, and it's just a blast, isn't it? Like, I like the way you can be like each of the turtles, and they each have their own different attack, weapons and stuff. It's that kind of thing's really cool. Yeah, but definitely a great pick there, my friend. I wonder if anyone else up for some Turtles action? I wondered if you were going to pick that.
Yeah, that was one of mine.
I was going to say, just in case.
It looked fantastic, really fantastic.
Yeah, we got to get online and play this when it comes out for sure. Good stuff. That's fantastic. So, Luke, maybe there's another one you wanted to pick, my friend. What would be your next pick?
Yeah, another one which was a bit surprising, both because of what it is and who's behind it.
Yeah,
was Getsu Fumaden.
Oh, nice.
Undying Moon.
Yeah, what's it doing on this? Is that what you were going to say? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, like it kind of came out of nowhere, and it looks fantastic, and it's kind of a 2D Metroidvania type game with this really incredible art style, but it's actually being published because it's a Konami IP, so it's been published by Konami.
Yeah. Do you think they've just snuck it in there, or is there some sort of independent thing? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there is an independent developer behind it.
Nice.
I think they're called Guru. So they are actually an indie developer, and it's just Konami is sort of, in the background doing, because I don't really think Konami's route forward is making games. I suspect they're just getting people to do their stuff. So
interesting.
But yeah, so that looked
looks amazing.
Really cool. And it's a remake of a game, I think from the 80s. Which apparently was the game that inspired the first NES version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, funnily enough.
Oh wow, interesting.
The way it formed.
Nice link.
So so a very nice link. So it just looked great. It just looked really, really great. And I was just surprised to see Konami up there, and being in indie world, presumably because of that reason, having an independent developer actually making the game.
Yes, yeah.
And it's right up my alley. Any kind of Metroidvania, roguelike, combination of those two. I'm all up for that, particularly when it looks as good as this one does.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, Metroidvanias. I love Metroidvanias big time. So yeah, I'm definitely up for it. The art style is so nice in this. It's kind of like there's so much going on. It reminds me of that painting with when you see the sea. That Japanese like sea painting, like the storm at sea. That one. It reminds me of that. Some of the visuals, sort of art style, which is a really good thing. Cool. But yeah, that is a great pick, and yeah, it was a nice surprise to see in there. Like we had Kofi on, who is he speaks Japanese and does like translations in Japanese to English and stuff, and he does a lot of import Japanese games and then reviews them and stuff. So yeah, he was on our reaction show that we did. So he said it was an old game as well. So yeah, you two knew that. You two are two knowledgeable men.
Yes.
Good stuff. Always guarantee that with you, my friend. But yeah, Puxley, buddy. Is there another one you would like to bring to the attention or like recap on that you enjoyed, buddy?
Yeah, I do have one actually, but unfortunately in the indie world it was actually only part of the sizzle reel, but there was actually a full trailer that was released for it, I think after the Indie World showcase itself.
Nice.
I'm a big fan of the late 90s arcade shooters, so I was pleasantly surprised to see House of the Dead remake appear.
Awesome.
Because I have the House of the Dead 2 and 3 kind of joint collection on the Nintendo Wii from back in the day. And with the motion controls there, it's such a great game to play. Oh, obviously not necessarily in the light gun format, but you almost play it the same way, and it's so much fun. And I'm hoping that this game coming to Switch means that we also get the proper Joy-Con integration as well. And if they do implement that, then I think this House of the Dead remake will be even more fun to play than the other two.
Do you think it's going to work well then? As like some people wondering, is it going to be as good as a gun? Do you think it could be as good as a gun? Sorry for the.
It may take some getting used to. I know because of the fact that the Joy-Cons obviously don't use an IR sensor for their motion capture. It's just a built-in gyroscope, so you can definitely get drift, especially if you're wiggling very quickly to the edge of the screen to reload and stuff like in the old school ones. So I'm wondering if they may be able to do something like what they did with the Mario All-Stars collection with Mario Galaxy. So to reset the pointer, you just press the R button rather than, ZR is to shoot, for example, but you press the R button just to reset where the center of the pointer is.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of wondering if there is motion controls, maybe they'll implement something like that. That definitely seems like the easiest solution to overcome, like the motion drift. So I think it could work. Otherwise, I think a game like House of the Dead, playing it with just an analog stick and a trigger button, I don't think is going to be fast enough, because some of the actions in those games are very split second. You have to be quick.
That's true.
So to be able to rely on an analog stick solely and a trigger button, I don't think is going to cut it too much. So I do hope they bring in those motion controls and just, as I say, just overcome that by having like a reset button just to reset where the pointer is, kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good shout. Because for me as well, the House of the Dead, I've still got it actually on the Dreamcast. So
oh wow!
I've got the
nice.
gun. I've got the gun. I have it. See, it's packed away in a box, unfortunately. But yeah, it's a pretty damn cool game though. I loved it back in the day. I loved Virtua Cop as well on the Saturn actually. I had the 2 guns actually for that, which is I was the popular guy when people came round. I guess that's how I lured friends round.
Yeah, you can stand there dual wielding and let your friends watch.
Yeah, exactly. That's brilliant. Yeah, you're not playing. I've got 2 guns. I love it.
It's my Dreamcast.
Yeah, that's good stuff. But yeah, no, it's great to see that coming. And again, I mean, is that supposed to be in there? Is it because that's when being handled by an independent team? I didn't catch that one actually. I think it might be. Is it being handled by a small team? But obviously the IP is owned by a bigger franchise again. Did you catch that?
I'm not sure. I believe so, because it didn't explicitly say, like, made by Sega or whoever else.
Exactly.
So I don't know 100%, but I'm under the impression that it's made by a smaller team and just published by someone like Sega. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is cool. But yeah, fantastic. I'm just going to dive into one of mine quickly, if you don't mind, guys, just because it hasn't come up yet. Let me just pull it up now. And yeah.
Is it Art of Rally?
No, because I've spoken about that already so many times. You probably already knew it exactly, because exactly what you just said. But Art of Rally would definitely be on there because actually, before I say any of mine, I'm going to actually mention what you guys have said in the chat. Apologies, I'm always rubbish at doing the chat. I do apologise. Road 96 was so happy to see more about that game, and that's Meisuko saying that, because I did ask what you enjoyed seeing a little while ago. Assassin Looper says Art of Rally and Oli Oli, love it, great stuff. Assassin Looper, fantastic. Where are we? I think I saw another one. Did I just say Stubbs is one? I'm sure I saw. There you go. Last Stop, Hindsight, Turtles, and Road 96 from Stubbs. Great choices, my friend. And as you may have noticed, I just pulled up Last Stop, and that was definitely one of my favourite, if not my favourite, announcement from this actually, because it's slightly a relief actually, because when we saw it at the Idea Xbox showcase, I was a little bit like, oh no, this is because it was one of my favorite most anticipated games, and when it was shown at the Idea Xbox, it was wasn't the best way of showing it, in my opinion. I think it didn't quite resonate. I didn't think they chose the best approach for that, basically, because it was kind of it's a story-based game and you're waiting for choices to be made, and it wasn't really flowing like a trailer would, obviously. And this trailer is way back on film, in my opinion, and yeah, looks absolutely fantastic. I'm super excited for Last Stop, and we got a release date month as well, which is so cool, because I've been waiting for something like that has come up on Last Stop for a while, and that is in July, which is super cool. Oh, nice. Yeah, not too long. So they made Virginia Variable State did, and that's a really cool game, so I'm really excited for this one. I think it's going to be cool. It's a interconnected narrative going on between 3 different characters, which comes together, intertwines, and amidst the supernatural natural crisis which is going on. And like I've said many times, I like the kind of like London regional accents going on in there. There's some like the London setting, as I say. I just kind of dig what they're doing with it. Definitely excited for Last Stop myself. Yeah, was there any others, guys, that you that sort of caught your attention that you wanted to talk about?
Well, actually, if there was, I guess I could throw sort of a curveball here, because you guys were really, really weirded out by it, and I thought it would be fun to talk about. But it's also out on Steam already. The Longing.
Okay.
I'm glad you brought this up, because I feel the same way.
I mean, I don't know if I'm ever going to play it, but I goddamn love the concept, and that's just indie games in a nutshell, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
that's true.
So weird that you started up, and 400 days, real life days later, you get the ending, whether you play or not.
Yes, that's right.
That is so bizarre, and you can sort of like, it's almost like a Tamagotchi that sort of doesn't die, I guess. You can sort of check up on this little dude, whatever you're playing, who's longing for his king to awaken, and see the progress. Like, it doesn't depend on you. You can do stuff with the little guy, but whatever happens in the game doesn't really depend on you, I guess. Maybe there's some different, depending on what you do, maybe the awakening happens in different ways. I mean, that would be pretty cool, but it's sort of like seems like a, I don't want to swear, it seems like a
it's all right.
B. Seems like a B to replay.
That's our
like,
bitch.
I don't know about the replayability of the
game. But yeah, well, that's the thing. I think I love what you said. It's so true. This is such an indie game in a way, because it's such a brave thing to just. Like, it's a kind of direction that you've never obviously see in AAA, and it's just like very brazen, isn't it?
You would never see it in a AAA.
No chance.
Never, ever.
Yeah, I mean... it's just that it's their vision, and they've gone for it, and I love it in that regard. And yeah, the 400 days thing, everyone thought you had to play for 400 days at first, I think. And they were like, but like you say, it's real time, and it ticks down even still. I think it's going to be really cool though. In 400 days, it's going to be interesting, isn't it? What's going to happen? Like, is there going to be?
I mean, and he almost insured himself to get a lot of attention once the 400 days has gone by from the very first, like when it got on Steam. Like, I think it was last year, it was in March, so it's almost a year.
It's already out on Steam,
actually.
Oh, okay, so it's already out on Steam, but it came out on Switch on that day, didn't it? That's right.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, there's a shadow drop, I think, on later today, it said. So it's been out on Steam already. Has it been 400 days since it's been out on Steam? Not yet, no.
No, not yet. It's been a little over a year, so still waiting.
How's it doing on Steam? Have you noticed reviews? Rise, have you seen any reviews on Steam? Is it
on the longing?
On the longing, yeah.
Yeah, it's very positive.
Really? Nice.
I have it up here. It's all reviews, 3,000 reviews in total, and an average of very positive.
Wow.
92% has rated it very positive.
That's great.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I
think it's just a really, really chill experience. Like, there's so much atmosphere in the game as well.
Definite. Yeah, it does make you wonder, like, how it plays out at different parts, and if it's like takes you on a different journey towards the end.
Yeah.
Puxley, did you have a little take on this one, as you mentioned that you were glad to hear it come up?
I pretty much reflect what Istej just said, but when we did our show early in the week, I kind of described this as almost like a bit of like a glorified social experiment in a way, given that the whole idea of the game seems to be that you wait 400 days, or you go through the process of doing small tasks over a 400-day period, and then something happens at the end, and then that's that, game over. But then I think we had a bit of a joke when we last spoke about this, because it did make me think if there must be plenty of people out there who, whether it's on Switch or on PC, who must have maybe bought the game, started it, and then you just wind the clock forward to next year sometime and just see what the ending is and potentially spoil what the whole thing's about. So it's a very, very weird niche game, I think, in that, to get the full experience of it, you have to kind of go through that experience with it, if that makes sense. But I'm not confident if many people have the patience for it. So I found it very surprising when Istej just said that it's got like a 92% positive rating with 3,000 plus reviews. I mean, that's good confidence to follow for a review. So
that's good.
Maybe I'm missing something here. Maybe I'll have to try it out. But I don't know.
I think maybe not to slag off the console audience, but I think it's more a PC audience. Maybe that's one of the reasons it's doing well. I don't know.
Sure, yeah.
One of the reviews is, this game fixed my insomnia and gives me another reason to stay alive for 400 more days.
That is it. I love it.
That turned dark rather quickly.
People probably jumping. Yeah, definitely. People maybe jumping on board the concept of it, and I think that's why it's so good, because it's a unique concept, isn't it? And like Puxley just said, the social experiment is almost kind of what it's about, and I think that's definitely a good analysis. Actually, it's really cool.
another review, fast-paced, riveting gameplay. Full stop.
I love it. A speedrunner's delight.
yeah, like you said on the stream, speedrunner's delight.
That's brilliant. Fantastic. Luke, buddy, was there any others you want to bring up at all that you kind of wanted to shout out or talk about?
No, although this one was, one of those that you look at and you're like, wow, that's so different, right? It's just such a unique game, and as everyone said, like you would have no chance of getting this kind of published by a big platform, big console platform or something like that, because it's such a unique concept. I was reading about it, and I'm somewhat tempted to grab it on PC. Of course, you can't rush to completion, which is the link of this game. But
it's good. It's not the best for reviewers, is it?
It's weird. But I have heard that it has multiple endings. So
okay, cool.
That are in part influenced by some of the stuff that you do in the game. The main character is called Shade.
Oh, okay.
And I think it's built around I think a German, it might be a German or Austrian legend, kind of an old children's story, essentially. So it's kind of inspired by that. So
nice.
It's very unique. It's very cool, and there are even things like there are puzzles in the game, but some of the puzzles require you to wait as well, right? To solve them. So you can put items down that will build themselves, for example, but they'll take real time to build themselves, and you might have to come back 2 days later, and then your puzzle is solved, and you get some reward for that or whatever. It's like super. It's one of the most unique games I think I've ever seen. Actually, not just because you have to wait 400 days in game time, but even around the mechanics of the character. He's designed to be deliberately very, 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 very slow.
Exactly.
And it's supposed to give this kind of like chill feeling for someone who's playing it, but also ties into the feeling of the character who's very lonely and stuff like that. So. It's super cool. I'm kind of obsessed with it actually.
Really?
Nice.
But
now that because I'd never heard of it before. I think I'll probably have to pick it up just to experience it, I suppose.
Nice. So it's done a number on you, my friend.
Yeah, definitely.
which is awesome. It's kind of the Bug Snacks in a different way, isn't it? It kind of stands out. It's, you know what I mean? Obviously Bug Snacks has become a meme, but it's kind of like it's become the talking point of a lot of people. But yeah, like you say, the slowness of it is just it's very brave to have that, because I don't think I know any game where you walk that slowly, if you know what I mean. So they've gone for a completely different approach, which is really, really cool. Puxley, was there any others that you wanted to bring up at all, my friend? I'm going to actually pass the mic to you, and I'm going to hope that you talk for a little bit, if you don't mind, because I'm going to slide to the toilet, buddy, if you don't mind.
That's all right. I mean, there was nothing in particular, but what I was going to say to the panel actually was, when we got the, there's one more surprise announcement at the end. Did anyone else on the panel think, is this going to finally be a Silksong release date announcement? And then we didn't get that. We got Oxenfree 2. I was a little bit like, I mean, I've not played Oxenfree 1, so seeing Oxenfree 2, it looked good, like visually from what I saw in the trailer. But I've not played the first one. I don't really have any real affiliation to it. I just thought it looked pretty neat, but I don't know if I'd pick it up. But as I was watching it, part of me was still a little bit disappointed that we hadn't seen any Silksong news yet. Did you guys think that at all?
Well, I mean, I sort of only saw the showcase today as a preparation for this podcast. I was at work when the actual showcase was on, so I didn't get to see it there. So I knew that Silksong hadn't been announced the release date, but it was fun to hear people on the podcast say like, "Oh, there's something here. Is it? No, it's not."
Yeah. Are you in the same boat, Luke, as well? Was you maybe expecting to see a Silksong thing, or?
No, I wasn't expecting. I was really hoping to, but I wasn't expecting to. And when the last thing came on, I thought it would. I thought it would be something other than Silksong, but I didn't think it would be Oxenfree 2. Just because.
Yeah, that was a surprise.
It's kind of hard to predict the one last thing for indies, if you know what I mean, because it could literally be anything. So disappointed, not disappointed, because I didn't have a real expectation Silksong was going to be there. It was more kind of childish hope.
I really didn't think it was going to be. I love the way it's gone on to Silksong after I got to the toilet, by the way, and I didn't even make that happen, so well done, guys. But yeah, I didn't think...
I was just asking the panel, actually, if, once we got that kind of right at the bitter end, when I thought, actually, the show is over, and they went, actually, we do have one more thing. I was kind of hoping for a Silksong thing, and then that's why I asked the question. But I'm just seeing in the chat as well about, I think from Stubbs here and a few other people saying that it's now E3 material. And I think post-show, after I'd said that stuff on the previous show as well, it does make sense, because I think Hollow Knight as a series in general has gained such a massive cult following of success and people that love the series that, if anything, it does make sense in my mind thinking back now that it's definitely E3 material. It's reached such gargantuan levels of popularity now that it definitely feels like it's something that we'll hopefully and definitely see at E3, I'd like to say.
Yeah, it deserves the big stage, doesn't it? But, I'll just wind that back quickly, sorry. Thanks, by the way, for holding that down, buddy. Oh, God, I've lost it now. I wish that I'd have... Yeah, E3. Did you think we'll actually see it? Is your money on seeing it, or are you thinking it's?
I'll be surprised that if we don't see it at E3. I think it's got to that point now where it's been so long. Us as an audience and as fans are wanting to at least just see something, even if it's not quite a release date. If it's not quite there yet, I think we can all forgive it. But I think we all just want to see a new snippet of gameplay. Yeah. I think the last thing we really properly saw was back in 2019, I believe, at E3, as well as at EGX that year as well. Nintendo had Silksong demos.
That's right.
At EGX. Yep. So I think it's been 2 years since we've really seen anything new, apart from that Edge article that came out a couple of months ago. So I personally think it's time that we do see something new, even if it's not quite a release date.
I agree. Yeah, I think it's a good shot. I mean, that's what remember when we did the podcast, that's what I said, June. So I'm going to stick with that, and I hope it will be that. But yeah, I didn't think it was going to be this time personally. I just didn't feel right, It's I just don't know why. It didn't feel right, But
I actually get what you mean. I do get it now.
Yeah. So, but it would be cool to see it at E3. That'd be fantastic. I mean, the thing is as well, though, which kind of goes against what I'm saying, but I think they could just announce it any day, and it would still be as big of a seller as announcing at E3, really, to be honest, pretty much, because there's so many people who are all over it anyway. I guess obviously showing it at E3, you may get a few extra people who don't usually play indie games who saw it. I don't know, but it's quite an interesting one, really. But so many people know about it already. So many people are sold by it already. I think if they were just to snap their fingers, they could do a shadow drop at E3, for example. That would be. Then it would still make sense because they've already got all that hype there. But I wonder if they will. I don't know if I think one thing is definitely for sure, and I know Luke has said this a lot as well as I have, which is they are definitely going to take all the time they need. They've made the ultimate game essentially, and they're going to make sure that this is as good as it can be. So, and they're not going to be rushed. And I've heard some people say that it's kind of like the pressure from the outside world that may have lifted them to need to do more, but I feel like it's almost the pressure on themselves is higher than that, because they know that their abilities are there, and I think they're more likely just to go inside their cave and just be there until they're ready, essentially. I think Luke may have said something along them lines previously too. Would you say that's what you would agree with, Luke, or is anyone?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I thought you were getting at that when I think you said it on Green Pass once, and I was agreeing in the chat kind of thing. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Oh, sorry, were you going to say something then?
Yeah. It's a difficult line to walk, isn't it? When you're working on your passion project and you know you're not quite finished, but you still have to show something. Like I've talked about on my channel and played the Cube World, for example, and he just goes radio silent, the guy who makes that, and the community freaking hates him almost as much as they like the game. I mean,
Crazy.
It's such a weird, crazy place. You cannot say anything good on the Cube World subreddit that's not about the alpha.
Yep.
You just get instantly blown to pieces. It's so weird, and that's just because he goes radio silent, because he doesn't know how to handle the public. And he was pressured into releasing something that he wasn't ready to release. I mean, the alpha. He was pressured by different YouTubers and such, and it just blew up because it was pretty good. It was really, really good, actually.
Yeah.
I feel like in a way we're almost delving into what almost like the dark side of indies, isn't it? Especially when you get stuff like that, which is like a cult following, and that, like the developers even still, as you say, feel under so much like public pressure, and then the public then go on to these guys like, oh, why aren't you responding to us? And it's almost that mixture of, if you are, I don't want to say truly indie, because obviously indie can be a few people to a solo person, but especially if you are a solo person, you can't spend all day looking at emails, responding to fan mail and stuff, because you're not working on the game. But then if you don't respond to that, the public hate you. If you're not working on the game, the public hate you. So it's almost that you can't win if something gets good enough, which is, I think,
so true.
An unfortunate side effect.
Yeah, I mean,
popularity in the indie space.
It's disappointing from the fans, in my opinion, because I see it all the time, and I want to rant about it so badly when I see it on the Ascent on Twitter. Like, for example, everyone is just like, release date, and they're rude about give us the release date. You know what I mean? I just can't stand it. Like, they're not going to just
people
go.
Are so entitled, right? It's like they feel like they already own the product. Which
I know.
I know.
Some people.
In the case of Cube World, they did own a product, and he made some really, really weird decisions,
invested,
both design-wise and
Kickstarter. Was there a Kickstarter or?
Yeah. He chose to update the engine without saying anything, and that's a big process. So he did make some really, really weird stuff, but people just were so nasty to him.
It's just awful, isn't it? I mean, again, like, that's Tunic as well. People are going mental. Well, when are you going to release it, for God's sake? I just calm down. Like, he needs to concentrate on the game. And when he has it at a stage that he wants to show that will indicate what the game is going to be about, and like he might be working out some story like beats, or that will take it in a slightly different route. So he doesn't want to show that in case it will be confusing for later. He wants to get to a stage where it's looking at how he wants it to look, and then he will reveal the next part. I mean, it does really get on my nerves. I'll probably lose some subscribers now, but like, I'm sorry, but there's people out there, they're too hard on it, and all they do is just say release date question mark and exclamation mark at the same time, and all this kind of junk, and it really gets on my nerves. But I don't know if it's just me, but it might be.
I don't mind me jumping in, actually. I do really agree with that, because I think there's a lot of people out there who just to quickly get a backset, as you say, about potentially losing subs and stuff. I don't think it's a bad thing to talk about at all, because I think it's something that does need to be said quite a lot.
Yeah.
Because I think there are plenty of people out there. Sorry, as already been said, that do feel entitled.
Yeah.
But people, I think there's also a lot of people who believe they understand how games are made, but then they actually know you don't, because people seem to think that when they see, I'm a solo guy working on this, I can't help but feel that maybe people think that, oh, he's working on it, but he's actually got support from a massive publisher behind him. It's just like, maybe even if it is the case, though, right? The publisher are only helping with the marketing side of things. They don't have any input on making the game, making the assets, especially something like Tunic, for example, if we're going to bring that up.
Yeah.
A small 3D title. I mean, I think the guy was an animator or something for EA for a number of years. I can't remember exactly what he did, but so he's got some experience with animation, maybe a bit of 3D modeling, but he's still got to do all of the coding, all of the story, all of the design, all of the mechanics side of things, and he's got to balance that in the game. Do you know what I mean? Once you really break it down, there are so many individual pieces which come together to make even a small indie game. There are all of these pieces which need to be very, made with love and care. They need to be properly put together, really properly thought about.
Yeah.
And then you go into the marketing side of things, which is its whole other kettle of fish.
Yeah.
So I think people just forget how much it takes, especially if you're doing it on your own, to make a game. And I just really wish that people would take the time to even. I know you could argue that when it comes to the AAA games, I think we're so used to seeing how AAA is now, day one bug fixes, all the rest of it, and I think we've now gotten used to seeing how that works. And I kind of feel that a lot of people feel indies should be following the same steps as you need to always keep us informed, but we also want you to work 24/7 on this thing so it's released, yesterday.
Yeah.
And I've just seen the chat as well, and testing is a whole other thing as well. If you're performing unit tests and trying to get the code to work and making sure bugs are fixed, because as an indie dev, it's hard enough, and then you've got to test and bug fix the damn thing. That takes time.
Yeah.
Serious time.
Exactly, my friend. Definitely.
Well,
yeah.
I just read something on Twitter about that actually.
Sorry.
Someone was talking
right.
about releasing on Switch. I don't remember who it was, but he said that 2 days before his authorization or whatever it's called to get your stuff on the Switch, he found a bug that was only on the Japanese version of the game that made it crash randomly. And it's just like, what happened? It was only on the Japanese translation. That's so strange. And then as a small indie developer, you have got to fix it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's crazy in my opinion. I mean, have you got a take on this, Luke? I'm sure you want to sink your teeth into this bad boy, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, no, I completely agree with everyone here. I think it's really disappointing when people think, as Puck said, they understand development and they just think, oh well, it's straightforward enough to get a game out, or not just to get a game out, but to actually announce a release date. And it's really difficult to do that because especially with small independent developers, if it's 1, 2, 3, 4 people, they just don't know if it's going to be a realistic release date if they do it too early, right?
Exactly.
And that's really difficult. And people are really entitled to this stuff, and it's not just for indie games. It's for all games. Whether it's one guy making it or 300-400 people. People are desperate to find out release dates and have dates locked in and stuff like that. And it's the developers don't owe you anything, right? It's a product. When the product's ready, if you want to go and buy it, you can buy it. And you can be a fan of a game or a series, or really looking forward to something that's coming out. But at the point at which you kind of overstep that and you become kind of obsessive about it and think that something is owed to you in your capacity as a fan, you're just a moron at that point. It's even like the only time it's ever semi-acceptable to do that is the times where you've and this is exceptionally rare, and I can only think of one example that I would think it's okay to be a bit more on developers or a bit more on a publisher or something like that, and that's in the example of something like Star Citizen, right, where people are many people have invested a great deal of money into the game.
Yes, I know what you mean.
And they still don't have a final product, right?
Yeah.
They still don't have a firm release date about that. And I'm one of those, I have Star Citizen, right? So, and I don't go around, it doesn't bother me that much, but there is a point where you're like, when do you think we'll actually get this, right? And that's the only time, because you've paid up front for the experience. So
with
that's the only time
was that a Kickstarter? Yeah, cool. Yeah,
it was. Yeah. So and it's a long time. It's a long time to wait for something like that. But in almost every other case, it's just totally unacceptable. And particularly in this environment where you've got a global pandemic, and even indie developers that might be working from home and that have always worked from home pre any of this, they may still be impacted in some way by this. So just in the same way it affects bigger studios, it may impact them as well. So and people just need to realize it's a human on the end of it. Developers aren't robots. They're people that have other commitments. They have pressures of their own, mental pressures, and people need to stop with it because it's really frustrating. Yeah,
it certainly is, my friend. Yeah, that's the thing with indie developers. They're only trying to preserve, the expectations kind of thing. They're not announcing these release dates ahead of time so that the people, they don't have to push it back or whatever. They want to make the best game for the people. You know what I mean? They're not doing it against them. They're going to take their time, and then when the game is ready, then they will announce the release date. And for that reason, we get great games often, from indies that are finished a lot more than AAA's, in my opinion. But it's a shame to see it. Like, I know some people are positive and they're like, oh yeah, when is it coming? But I still feel like that sort of might press a button after a while. But yeah, I don't know. It's it can't be fun. I see why the people get in like teams and then they just hide away and do the development and stuff. But yeah, sometimes developers actually get quite involved in the social media and stuff too. So it must be quite, hard to face that sometimes. But yeah, that is a really juicy little discussion, guys, which just came out of nowhere, which I love. I did actually write it down. I want to have a little rant about that actually, but it came out already. It came out anyway. It's just that was quite fun. But yeah, good stuff. Yeah, love it. But good stuff. Yeah, the indie world was great. We should probably move on. It was a great show. If you haven't seen the indie world, check it out. We did a live reaction on the channel if you wanted to check that out, or check out the actual indie world stream if you fancy. But hopefully we've covered some good games in it. Like I said, Last Stop was there. The Art of Rally is coming to Switch as well, which I called. I don't want to say. I don't want to like just saying. You know what I mean? I did actually predict that. No, ain't kidding, guys. I was quite proud of it though. But yeah, not a very out of the blue prediction, to be honest, because that was just announced that the Xbox One, and now it's coming to Switch too, which is awesome, and it's a great game. Lots of good stuff coming, and much to look forward to. But yeah, we should get moving on, guys, because we've taken loads of time on that topic. We did a couple of extra bits, but let's move on from there, guys, and we're gonna get into our next topic, which is gonna be related to PlayStation. And kind of recently, or maybe for a little while even, there's been a few reports recently specifically, but I've been feeling myself in general, and I'm sure a lot of people have too, PlayStation have been putting the emphasis on big blockbuster games and, going all in on that essentially. And it kind of feels like that they are maybe disassociating themselves from the indie games, even though they are still, obviously indie games are coming to PlayStation. It's how they're kind of like, they're trying to put out a perception that they are the big AAA game people. They're the blockbuster game. You're going to get your massive games. Personally, I feel like it's a little bit concerning. I'm really interested to hear what everyone else thinks about this one. But like, they've got to realize that the future talent is where the talent comes from the indie games. So it's sort of the big blockbuster games that they've had has come from indies initially, etc. But I'm not going to go too much in myself. I want to hear what everyone else thinks, really. But I'm kind of interested to know whether you think PlayStation's tactics overall is leaving sort of the indies to the wayside. Are they neglecting indies at all? I'm going to fire this one straight to Luke, actually, if that's okay. What do you think about this, my friend?
It's a difficult question because if you look back, certainly you go right back to the beginning of the PS4 era. They did emphasize a lot of big independent games that were coming up, and they had marketing deals with a number of them, ones that stick to mind are stuff like No Man's Sky, right, which were the more ambitious ones. And obviously they've also done a lot of stuff with developers like Housemarque, who are an independent developer. On the bigger side for sure. And
now they're releasing they're just releasing Returnal, aren't they?
Yes, the end of the month. Can't wait for that.
Good stuff.
But I don't know if I agree that PlayStation in general, Sony in general, are moving towards what they're really good at even more than they have done, which is the big blockbuster AAA games, right? I mean, they've always done that in terms of first party. They do have, and they have had experiences that are smaller and they're more unique. Thinking like in the last couple of years, stuff like Concrete Genie, for example, those kind of indie AA sensibility type games, right? They have those, and I'm sure they will still have those. I wouldn't say that they're neglecting indies now, because if you look at the kind of stuff that they're showcasing at State of Plays, and they clearly have some kind of deals for. You've got games like Returnal is one, obviously, although that's really a really probably one of the highest budget indie quote unquote games I suppose you'll ever see, if you understand what I mean. Because,
Yeah, I do know what you mean.
Obviously.
Absolutely. Yep.
But they've got stuff like Kina and Sifu, and they've had a big push with Oddworld.
Yep. That's one thing they're doing is they're bringing them into Plus a little bit, aren't they? Some of the indies, which because the thing is, Game Pass. I was going to say Xbox. So what I mean to say is Xbox has got Game Pass. They're nurturing them in through Game Pass, and that makes them look really good regarding indies. If you see what I mean?
No, it does.
It
does. And Microsoft have kind of I think exactly as you say, they're kind of nurturing that all into Game Pass to the point where Game Pass is a big indie space now, right? Like it's not just a place. It's a place where lots of different indie games are, and some at launch, some after launch. Lots coming, obviously, that they've announced, and PlayStation 1 doesn't have that equivalent, so it can't really do that kind of service. I mean, it does have that equivalent, but they're not interested in doing that kind of service. And at the moment, and what they're doing is focusing on like the PS Plus side of things, or just promoting select indie titles. But I think there's a common theme, I think, when they select indie titles, which is that they're all bigger budget indie titles. Like if you never get like The Longing promoted by PlayStation, right?
That's it. Yeah,
you always get like it's like Kina or Sifu or Solar Ash, or
that's right.
Some of these that are visually they tend to make audiences take notice immediately.
Yeah, that's
they
kind
look
of
more like.
They look more like AAAs, basically, as we were going to say. Sorry, I cut you off. I was just going to say that's kind of what the focus is mainly more because it feels like they're sort of tailoring their marketing around being associated with AAAs more than indies. That's kind of the crux of what the question.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, no, and I think that's probably right, and I think that goes in hand with that point, which is that the ones that they do promote, the indies, they're selective about, right? When Nintendo do any of these shows, or when Microsoft do any of these shows, it's kind of like everything. There's so many indie games. Look at all these indie games. Look at all these different kinds of indie games. And Sony don't do that, right? But they didn't really do that in the PS4 era. Again, they took select independent games and they spotlighted them. No Man's Sky that they did for a long time.
Resogun and that sort of stuff back then.
Resogun and Nex Machina and all those sorts of titles. So I think there's definitely less of an emphasis on indie with Sony. I mean, I don't think you can deny that, right? They don't have dedicated showcases like Microsoft do or like Nintendo do. They have stuff like their blog posts, for example, or they'll do. They've been doing stuff on Twitter recently where they'll reveal or talk about like 5 indie games over the course of 2 hours, stuff like that. But it's clearly not in the same scale as like an indie world or anything like that.
Yeah,
and I don't think any of that's a bad thing for indies. I mean, indies are, being an independent developer is probably, if you've got a good idea, an easier job than it's ever been in terms of actually getting some attention on your game and getting people interested.
And the tools as well. You've got access to the tools now more easily.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But certainly Sony are focusing more on what they're the leader at, and again, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think the difference, one of the differences, I guess, and it's not to go so off topic, but with Microsoft, it's a good way of plugging games into gaps that they have in their release schedule at the moment, in terms of like, oh, here's all these games coming up before we launch our big games, right? And you're not getting that at the moment with Sony, because they do have stuff coming up, obviously Returnal and then Ratchet & Clank, etc. But yeah, I just think there's that difference with what Sony do in terms of, we do like indie games. But here are just a select few indie games that we really
I agree.
like, really
maybe they're even doing that to save face of the of that being open-minded about. Would you say, is that a bit harsh? To save face that they are. Oh, we do like the indies. It's like we do sell organic fruit as well. You know what I mean?
Well, I think I think that's probably like right to some extent.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because I think you know, for them, the real thing that they want people to do is go out and buy their big games. But I also think maybe, you know, in the background they were a little burnt by stuff like No Man's Sky, you know, which was hugely promising, but launched in a really disappointing state. I mean, now it's an incredible game, right? But you know, they really kind of pumped a lot of resource into that, and a lot of time and effort. And obviously, when it came out, the reception was very middling for it. So perhaps there's still that kind of tentativeness in how they're approaching, and perhaps that's why they're so selective about it as well. So it's just a different approach, I think
so. Like we've said, like you've covered quite a few of these types of topics on Green Pass Gaming, awesome podcast, guys, as you probably already know, everybody, but you cover like some quite juicy stuff on there, which is great. And like sometimes it's about I've said when I've been in your chat is like I think that each of the companies need to have their own identity so they can exist, kind of thing. And they're obviously going all in on you know, but having their own, it's not niche like, because they're massive, but it is a niche in a way. And that in business, and having your own niche is essential, especially when you're, you know, competing with other people. If you've got the whole market to yourself, then fair enough. But not many people ever have the whole market to themselves, and you've got to have niche down. But yeah, that's great takes, Luke, my friend. Actually, more surprised. I thought you might defend PlayStation a little bit more, but that was quite interesting. Great
I'm
stuff.
not that much of a fan. Come on.
No, of course not. You're always rounded, my friend. That was great. Puxley, buddy, what is your take on this, my friend? I'm very interested to know.
Yeah, I do kind of mirror what Luke's saying, actually, in that, I mean, last gen, I had a PS4. I loved it. Absolutely adored the machine. Played loads of good AAAs on it from Sony and other people. But I suppose the news of, you know, or the rumors, whatever it is, of PlayStation trying to distance themselves from indies, I think, especially as Luke said about, you know, the kind of burn that was No Man's Sky at launch. I mean, I know number of years to the point now where it's now a completely different game and it's meant to be absolutely fantastic. I mean, that's great, but again, as what was meant to be this great, massive indie undertaking coming into PlayStation and seeing the initial result of that and the big backlash, yeah, I think I do kind of agree with Luke there in that I can maybe see Sony looking at it thinking, we took a bit of a chance on this, it's not really worked out, what do we do? But then the other side of the coin is that I think, for me at least, when I'm thinking about PlayStation, I don't necessarily think of indies. I mean, PlayStation have what they call their PlayStation Partners Program, which is where you can sign up and, you know, self-publish on the platform and stuff. So, you know, one of the many reasons I think on all platforms you see all sorts of, you know, cheap, quick, simple games being put onto these platforms. I think mainly for people just maybe learning the ropes, getting experience, just doing it, following the process. But even just looking at it, I think even on PlayStation side of things, if you want to, you know, if you're taking it seriously and you want to publish to PlayStation, I think you still need to be experienced enough and confident enough in what you're doing and your vision and your development that, you know, you still have to fork out a couple of £100 for a separate dev kit and things like that, which is where I think Xbox does have this right, because I think since the Xbox One and the One X, and now obviously with the Series S and X, you still have to pay the $20 or $30 developer fee, I think it is, but I know you can set your console up to be a dev kit of its own now. You don't have to pay hundreds for a separate machine. Your own home Xbox is your dev kit at the same time, which I think is an absolutely fantastic proposition for indies. And I think it's also a great way for, you know, for people to get onto the programs as well. Because I think what most people know about when you hear Xbox and indie is obviously everything that we've seen coming to Game Pass, which is true. But Xbox also have another program, which they call the Xbox Creators Program.
Right, yeah.
This is what like students or hobbyists can use, again, for practice. So you still have to do that sign-up fee, but there's no concept approval process or anything like that. You simply make your game, and it goes up onto the Microsoft Store for maybe, you know, a price of your choosing, but I think it's anything between like £3 and £10 perhaps. Like limitations on it, for example, is that you can't have like Xbox Live integration, achievements or leaderboards or things like that. So it's just meant to be solely for practice. And I think this is what makes Xbox more... more user-friendly towards indies, because they have these different packages that you as an indie can have a go at, and you're paying minimal cost to have a go at doing so. All you need is to own an Xbox machine and you can publish for it, which is fantastic. And then again, you look at PlayStation, and yes, they definitely have the big AAAs, the big story-driven games, the, you know, strong mechanics games and all the rest of it, and people love it for that. But I personally, I'd like to think a lot of people agree with me here as well, that I don't think PlayStation think that's a great indie machine that also has its own AAAs. I think Sony has always been very strong on the side of, we have our games and our partners that we want to publish on PlayStation, which are giving you the big AAA experiences that you can't get anywhere else, and they're trying to sell themselves on that. And of course, the games that do come out of PlayStation are very good, and they do sell, and that that market strategy is working for them, I would argue.
Yeah.
Whereas Xbox obviously doing their own thing with Game Pass, all the big titles are coming to that, but they also have this open indie support program as well, which, I think Xbox are definitely doing the right thing for those who want to be indie.
Yeah.
Compared to PlayStation, but I think as I don't want to keep repeating myself, but as Luke said,
definitely. So you feel like
PlayStation Miles has never really been an indie friendly place to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, they had a little period, like Luke said at the start, when they had the Resogun and then games coming out at the start of that gen, wasn't it? That they seemed to be quite strong then, and then it sort of switched over to like halfway through the generation. I think was when Xbox got to its stride, isn't it? So I think then it sort of switched over at that point. Would you say?
Yeah. Sorry, we're talking to me. Sorry,
I thought someone was chiming in a little bit. I didn't know if there was. Yeah, I mean,
so
you think they're going all in basically on the AAA? I mean, do you think that's going to come back to bite them in the ass for our American viewers? Do you think that they are wrong to sort of just go all in on AAA, Puxley, or I mean, are they because the talent often comes through the independent games? Are they cutting that off? Because maybe God of War, that came from an independent sort of beginnings, didn't it? And then came up to be a big AAA, I do believe, if the people working from that studio, from what I'm hearing. Do you think that's a bad thing to cut off, your dedication to indies and stuff like that? What do you think?
I do, in a way, because, I mean, as, again, Luke's already said it, but PlayStation have never necessarily they've never done their own like indie showcasing for things coming to PlayStation, apart from like the smaller showcase we had a while back with games like Sifu and Kera, and I know they are indie, but they're still kind of industry veterans behind them, if that makes sense. So they kind of have the experience and the budget behind them to push something that graphically looks good, and I think that's what Sony seems to be going for. If something looks graphically fantastic, people bite onto that, don't they? If something graphically looks good, it also helps showcase what your machine is capable of, i.e., PlayStation 5 in this case. Oh, look what our machine can do. It can, our machine allows a game to look like this, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what it's all about. That's the whole question, I think, because like you alluded to there, it's kind of a perception thing that it makes sense in a way, because, as from a business point of view, I don't think they want the sort of like the look of the sort of pixel art sort of, old school look, or like not so good looking indie games, which can be really good still, like maybe a Celeste or something like that, even though it looks amazing in my eyes, but you know what I mean? But they it's all a marketing thing, I think, that they're going around, and they want, it's all perception. They don't want to be associated that's what they're getting. So maybe people they want to be perceived as, these are the big blockbusters on our platform. This is where you get all this big stuff, kind of thing. I think.
I 100% agree with that. I think they're trying to be the platform where we have the blockbusters you can't get anywhere else. And that is solely it. I mean, I just want to clarify though. I don't think. I mean, when people say they're neglecting them, I mean, they still have their partners program open for people to sign up to and develop for, which is fantastic. Yeah. But I think the one thing to be clear about is that they're not necessarily saying indies aren't allowed on our platform. It's more, we are not going to showcase your small-time pixel art game because we only care about these big leagues, which I don't think it will be damaging to them because of the success they're already seeing with the PS5. But I think indies will be more turned off of going only to PlayStation as a potential exclusive deal because of their lack of interest in the space, if that makes sense.
Yep, absolutely, my friend. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there is accessibility there. It kind of makes sense in a way if I'm really fighting against it, but I don't like this personally, but I get it totally as a business sort of idea, because you've got to portray a clear message, I guess, too. And they're kind of going for a more broad audience, aren't they? They're going for a kind of more casual gamer, maybe. I know Xbox is going for everyone as well. They're going for a broad audience, obviously, but it's kind of a different approach. They're going for they're just going for the people who want that big fix of a game, if you know what I mean. Does that
Yeah, I
make
think
any
you worded
sense?
it well. Just sorry, no, go on, Luke. I've been speaking long enough.
Oh, no.
Yeah, jump in
I
anytime,
just-
guys.
Yeah, I was just going to quickly say it, and I read this. I can't remember who said this the other when I saw it, but I totally agree, and it does fit in to what we're discussing, which is that Sony are like the cinema of the gaming world, and Microsoft are more the Netflix, right? And if you look at those approaches, then from Sony's perspective, you know, as we've been talking about, not all indie games, or very few indie games, you would argue, fit into the cinema idea, right?
Yeah.
The blockbuster looking,
Exactly, yeah.
visually attractive, kind of stand up and take notice immediately games. Whereas on a Netflix kind of model, on the kind of way that Microsoft are doing things with Game Pass especially, lots of indie games can go there. You can do whatever you want in that format, because it's not about trying to get you to take notice of one game. It's about trying to get you to take notice of many, many different games and a selection of games. So I think absolutely, agree with Pokes, which is that I don't think PlayStation have ever properly been associated with indie games. It's not the place that you think about playing indie games. Like Nintendo, for example, like the two things that spring to mind when I think of Nintendo now are, Nintendo games, but indies, right? I automatically think of indies when I think of Nintendo, because they've put such an emphasis on selling their platform around it. And it makes sense for their platform because it's a handheld machine, and, indies can be very accessible type, games. Whereas I don't think Sony have ever done that. Sony have always said, this is the place you come to play your big cinema, quote unquote, releases, your big blockbusters. But also here's this other stuff that's actually really cool, and that's what they do. So
Yeah.
it is just like this different approach to what each platform holder wants their, platform to be known for, to be renowned for. And in the case of PlayStation, it's all their first party big stuff, and
Yep.
the indies take kind of second place, or
Yeah.
maybe even further back compared to that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you had to, I mean, I'm not trying to just diss them at the moment, because they do those big games well, obviously, and a lot of people like them for that. And some people just own a PlayStation for just those games, don't they? If you know what I mean, and if it's their second platform or whatever. But obviously, that's not me. But I like, if you say what is the worst indie platform, you probably would say PlayStation, probably. And if you say that what's the best indie platform, you probably say PC, or if on console, you may say Switch or Xbox. Maybe, I wonder.
Yeah.
I just want to quickly read out a comment, because I keep missing comments. I need to get better at reading out comments, because Puxley does it so well and I'm rubbish at it. I should just ask Puxley to do it for me. I was going to say, Pixel Slapper says Sony are more interested in the amalgamation of their own branches or games. I'll read that again. Sony are more interested in the amalgamation of their own branches or games, movies, in my opinion. And that is, that's kind of what we were thinking as well. I think that's a great shout, my friend. Anyone else got any opinions on this? Definitely hit us up in the chat. We will read out your comments. I will definitely do it. I promise, you have my word. But I would like to fire this one to It's There now and see what he thinks about this. I'll be very interested. He's predominantly a PC guy, but I definitely wonder what he thinks about this.
Well, I'll take the very controversial stance of agreeing with everyone. I mean, I think it's very much like the natural progression of what we're seeing right now, because I also think that Sony has like identified their target audience. Like, they buy a PlayStation to get the big games. They buy a PlayStation to get God of War, to get Spider-Man, like these big beautiful games, and PlayStation is marketed as the powerful console, and you don't think indie games when you think of power. I mean, that's the AAA side, where they have the big budgets, and like I was mentioning earlier, like with the Switch, you just have this perfect marriage basically, because when you want a Nintendo console, you don't think power, you think weird games, you think new ways of controlling, you think like gaming in a more fun scale, not epic as usual. Well, I mean, you do have Breath of the Wild and all that, but you know what I mean. It's just
definitely.
There's a very, very clear and perfect fit with the Switch, and with the PlayStation, it's just they have the power. Why not focus on the games that can sort of keep that story, that narrative alive in you know, like the God of Wars, which were technical masterpieces. Like it was insane. I mean, it almost made me want to buy a PlayStation 4 just watching Jacksepticeye play God of War. it was so good.
There you go. Yeah. Streamer power.
And I feel like, and then you
yes.
have the Xbox, which is just like sort of in the middle.
They
like want a foot in both camps. But I think the Luke's comment about them being Netflix and Sony being the cinemas of the gaming world, I think that was really spot on.
That's a great way of saying it.
Yeah. So I think it's natural, and then you also like in the game, you linked a VentureBeat article.
I did indeed, yes.
In preparation to this, and they also mentioned that simply the price points for indie games are too low for Sony, like in some way, because if I remember correctly, they did not make a big profit on the PlayStation 4, and I think it was even less for the PlayStation 5. Like the production cost of the console is just so high.
Yes. They take a hit almost, don't they? And just for the software, isn't it, where they make the money? Yeah,
exactly. I think for the PlayStation 4, it was like, and I'm not sure if that's correct, but I think I read somewhere that it was 20 Danish kroners, which is like $3 profit for each console.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, that's insane. That's insanely low. And there was even talk about the new Xbox being actually it costs more to make than they want from it, than what people pay for it. But then Xbox is making the money in the Game Pass, the subscription based, and that's really interesting. I don't think Sony can really afford. I don't think they have the user base for their subscription service to afford that kind of deals. I mean, that kind of business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, it's definitely. I couldn't agree more. It's interesting because like I do agree with their approach almost from a business point of view, but it's against my obviously wanting them to. I'd like to see them show more interest in indies and support them more. To be honest, that's what is more important to me. But I do feel from the business point of view that makes sense. But it's just a shame. What they're trying to do is keep a clear message. I think that's what the key of it is they're trying to not portray any sort of that's not a word, unclarity, but like they want it to be completely clear that they are the place to go for the big games. I think that's what the key of it is. But they do offer indies, and there are some cool indies coming actually to PlayStation. So they do it.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just like a shame, kind of the way they don't embrace them and like really nurture them and show them off in a way maybe that like the indie world or like Xbox do, which is really cool. But yeah, there we go. I'm going to keep this moving a little bit. I don't think anyone's commented about Pixel Slapper has said wish Nintendo would bring back Doshin the Giant gave Black and White a different twist. Sorry, that wasn't related to the topic, but we'll read it out anyway. Good stuff, guys. Thanks so much for being here, everyone who's hanging out with us. We're going to move on from there. That was quite a nice little topic. We could have probably spent a little more time on that, but we're going to keep it moving because we spent so long on the first topic.
Which got a little out of hand.
It was all good though. It's all good. I love it. Going with the flow and all that. Go on to different stuff, and branching off is fun. So it's great. But yeah, this last one is going to be a little bit of an interesting one. It's actually kind of potentially a two-pronged topic maybe. But for the initial part of it, we are going to be taking a look at a new game which was actually, and I do believe it was just recently announced. And it is called Crowsworn. So this game is not actually out yet. It's not even on Steam Marketplace or anything like that yet. But it is announced to be coming to Kickstarter soon, which is pretty damn cool. And it has been catching a lot of people's eyes out on the on YouTube and also Twitter. There's been a lot of engagement around this game all of a sudden. I can see why, because it looks damn awesome, but I can also see why, because there's quite a few people who think it looks a lot like Hollow Knight, and I would be in agreement with that. I would say there's Hollow Knight aspects in there for sure. We're going to first maybe just dive into, like, we can dive into this as in, like, what do we think of it? Do you think it looks good? I think it would be fun to maybe talk about how you feel about games being maybe fairly similar and taking inspiration from other games. Do you feel okay with that, and do you feel it's potentially a rip-off when people do that? They should just go their own way. I will hold all my opinions back on it and let you guys go first. But I think this game looks great. I will say that. I think it looks really cool. It definitely caught my attention, and I'm definitely up for what they're showing here. I won't go any further because I will give away my opinions, and it might affect what your opinions are. Maybe I don't know if I have that hold over you or anything, but let's just get cracking on this topic. This is Crowsworn, as I say. I will put a link into the description below for the Kickstarter if you did want to support this game. It is supposed to be a Metroidvania, by the way, and you play as kind of like a plague doctor, and you can see some resemblance, as I say, to Hollow Knight. There is kind of the feel of the combat and the sort of lighting, where it sort of lights the character as you move, the sort of backgrounds, the 2D elements, the downward striking to bounce off of things, like the spikes. That's definitely got a feel to it where it's familiar feel. But I'm gonna let you guys break it down yourselves, maybe, because you've all played Hollow Knight and know it well. So and what do you think of Crowsworn in general? And let's start off with who wants up first? Maybe Puxley. Let's go first with Puxley.
So I didn't actually see this for the first time until I think earlier this week when you tweeted this, and I watched this same video then, and I thought, I kind of thought, interesting, because I know you say you're reserving some of your thoughts until later, which I understand. I think I know some of them anyway. But
okay, cool, no worries. I love it.
So, okay, the good stuff first. The game looks great. It's definitely a Hollow Knight clone. The art style looks fantastic. The movement, the lighting, as you say. But this is also, it's double-edged sword, I think, because as soon as something becomes immediately associated as a clone of something else, which is like super popular, I think a lot of people are by default going to assume or going to hope that it has at least the same amount of content as what it's copying, so to speak.
Good shout.
And another thing I have noticed in particular is the detail on the characters, which looks really good. Because again, as great as the art is in Hollow Knight, if you actually look at the character models themselves, they're actually super simple. There's actually no real detail on them at all. Just to break it down a little bit, like there's no real shadows on them. Like, I mean, there's a bit, but it's very simple shadows, as in like just a small black line, but it's nothing overly detailed. Whereas each of the characters here look like they've got just as much detail as the surrounding environment and backgrounds.
Yes,
which is definitely giving it a bit more of that kind of punched out cartoony look. And the combat looks fantastic as well. I mean, again, Hollow Knight-esque, and again, this boss fight scene, you just see they've all the like spears coming down. It definitely looks like it's
that's very Hollow Knight.
Hoping to be a tough as the nails kind of combat platformer like Hollow Knight is. But
they have even stated that they're inspired by Hollow Knight Bloodborne as well, which I can definitely get. It obviously doesn't look like Bloodborne, but I can sort of get the feel of the maybe the character is a bit Bloodborne, especially in the thumbnail thing that we had up a minute ago, but you looked like it kind of that vibe then. So they've even stated it themselves, but you can definitely get those vibes. Sorry, I've cut you off badly. Carry on.
No, that's perfectly fine. I said my one kind of, I don't want to say gripe, but my one concern is that, again, something being taken as a clone of something, and you can definitely see the inspiration, is that people are going to default to, this game has to be as long as or just be as good as for me to really enjoy it. Because I think Hollow Knight has almost set a standard for what a small team Metroidvania can look like. And if you think back to when Hollow Knight first started its own as a Kickstarter, back in, I think, 2014. It didn't release, and I think it got delayed about 3 or 4 times, didn't it? It didn't release until about 2 years after its original planned release date, if I remember correctly.
Yes, I think that is correct. I can't quite remember that clearly.
I hope this isn't the developers' kind of first rodeo in making their like fully fledged first title.
Sure, yeah.
Otherwise, I think that they're going to be horrifically surprised at how much effort they're going to have to put in to support the amount of content that you need for games like this to be successful. I mean,
yeah,
I know we were talking earlier about how, indie games don't have to be, there's so much variety, which is fantastic in the indie space. And you don't have to have games which are hours long. But again, it comes back to the fact that because this is clearly being taken as a clone of something which is at least 40 hours long, that it's taken inspiration from, then I think this game has to almost compete with that, even in just length and content. Otherwise, people are going to take it as a cheap clone and maybe not touch it much afterwards.
It's a good point, actually. I didn't think of actually myself, because Hollow Knight is like the pinnacle, isn't it? And it's got so much content, and when you go up against it, I mean, I think just looking at this, obviously looks fantastic, and that doesn't match up maybe, but it's definitely up there with it. It's doing great on that regard. But when you dive deeper maybe into the content, like you say, people might be thinking, okay, well, good, I'm looking for my Metroidvania where I'm going to get that much out of it, and I want that deep lore, and I want all that out of it. Maybe that will come up short and it'll feel a bit shallow potentially.
I mean, the other side of the coin, though, just to let me finish quickly, is there's also this massive thing, I think, even in the AAA world of gamers in general as well, that, we don't all want to have those, 40, 50, 60-hour experiences because, at least, unless all the adults in the world that love gaming, we only have limited time in our days to play them. We don't always want to have to sink in hours of time. So I'll take back some of what I said in a way. I mean, this could be a shorter game as long as that shorter, time spent and the content that is in that shorter playtime period is absolutely top notch and cannot be criticized, if that makes sense, or very minimally criticized. If it's almost perfect in its execution, I think it can get away with being shorter. But if it's a bit drib and dry between it, like almost, like Hollow Knight has its moments where you're just kind of looking around, and then you have the fights, and then there's other exploring bits. I mean, if it's trying to take on all of that as well, then I think it's got a lot on its plate. But if it's trying to be a smaller experience but just inspiration of, then I do think it will have a very good place in the Metroidvania space. I mean, so ultimately you're saying you're cool with it in general, though. You're cool with the people taking strong inspiration from another game in this, because I would say it's quite heavy inspiration, I would say. I don't know if you would agree. 100%. I do agree. Like, you can even tell, even from the movement, like even the animations where the character doesn't even move his arms, but he just has the legs and he's got the coat on. And you can kind of tell just those nuances as to, I mean, one, because it's, animating arms, I imagine, is a pain in the backside, but there's a lot of inspiration I can see
there's
here.
There's definitely a lot, isn't there? Yeah. But it does have a slight, identity of its own. Like I say, I mean, there's a bit of like Dead Cells in there almost with the roll and stuff. I know that's just a roll, and you just dash on the other one. It's like not much different, but I do think it does stand on its own as well. But there is really heavy inspiration, I would say. But like you say, you're just ultimately you're cool with it, basically, as long as it maybe feels like its own game, I guess. Like from basic, okay, let's just base it what it is here. You're cool with this at this sort of inspiration level, would you say?
Oh yeah, I'm 100% cool with it, especially if this is again one of your first bigger titles. I mean, you have to take inspiration from somewhere, and if you like a game that much, then we have seen in the past. I can't think of any examples in my head right now, but I know there have been games in the past which have taken heavy inspiration from a game, and the public have potentially gone to the levels of criticizing it for taking such strong inspiration. But then when the game comes out, that then becomes the new like the new border to beat,
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing. It's a funny thing as well. There's the people saying, oh, it's copying Hollow Knight, but then Hollow Knight's taken so much inspiration, as I said a minute ago, from obviously it's Metroidvania. It's taken it from Metroid and Castlevania. So
I mean, the only bigger games I can think of as well, like back when like Breath of the Wild first got announced, everybody just kept saying, oh, it's a Zelda Skyrim kind of thing. But then as soon as the game comes out, other games that then try to be like Breath of the Wild become Breath of the Wild
Yeah,
clones. So it's like
it's
it never
true.
really ends.
There's always inspiration being taken, definitely. I personally think it looks great. I won't give it away. I'll give a proper take in a minute, but I loved your take, Puxley. That was fantastic. Great to hear it from a sort of like a developer point of view as well, because that's what you are now, my friend. So
Well, I wouldn't go that far yet.
up and comer. But yeah, no, it's good to hear because you know that sort of behind the scenes a little bit as well. Lovely stuff. So let's go to It's Dare next on this one. What do you think about what this looks in general? Are you excited by it? And yeah, how do you feel about the level of inspiration drawn on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's great to have inspiration, and it's great to sort of nod and pay homage to what you really like. And I do think that Crowsworn here, it looks great, and it does have some unique ideas. I mean, it looks like there's sort of a talent tree in there, and the combat is... I don't think the combat is very much like Hollow Knight. I mean, you have the basic moves, but that's just sort of Metroidvania, you know? Metroidvania is a genre now, just like Souls-like games. So I feel
there is
like
a gun in there as
can't-
well, so that's one thing that's definitely not Hollow Knight. There's a gun in the game.
Exactly. And I feel like it's such a shame because they can clearly stand on their own with new stuff. I mean, quote unquote new stuff. But I mean, taking a look at the backgrounds or the environments and even the UI in the top corner, it's just blatantly Hollow Knight, and it bugs me. It really does.
Oh, no
because...
pun intended.
yeah, no pun intended. Or very much pun. No.
Or very much
I can't
so.
take credit for it. But I mean, especially in the environment, it's almost like being in Hollow Knight. It's sort of the same color palette, and it's even the same. It looks to even be the same like stroke around, like it's drawn with the same stroke, and it's.
I do know what you mean.
It's just so weird. I mean, maybe it's to get some marketing or some conversation going, but I feel like I'm not a fan because
Sure.
Yeah, they can clearly. I mean, the characters does not look anything like Hollow Knight. I feel like, well, Puxley just said about the running animation with the cloak, and that's. I mean, if that was just the one thing, that would be what I meant. What I mean, like paying an homage to it, and that's fine. But it's just too much of an inspiration. And I don't know why, because they can clearly make something that looks great. So why go that direction? I don't know. I mean, you even had a couple of years ago, there was another Kickstarter that failed. It was called Enchanted Portals, and it was such a blatant ripoff of the art style and gameplay of Cuphead.
Oh, that one. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just, of course, it's not, because they even put in the work to make this whole other universe and everything. But why do so much of an inspiration? I mean, I don't really get it, and I think it's such a shame that they went with that direction, because clearly the guys making Crowsworn are talented people.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just. It saddens me a little bit that they don't believe. It makes me feel like they don't believe enough in their own ability. Like they feel like they have to look like Hollow Knight to make it in this world in some way.
It's interesting. That interesting take. Yeah.
It's just a feel I have.
Sometimes, as someone who's done a lot of creative stuff over my time, sometimes it's hard to come up with that initial idea, but you can do the execution, if that makes sense. The initial idea is sometimes hard to conceive, but you have the ability to put it into process once you've got that idea, if that makes any sense. So sometimes if they've given a direction by another game, that might have helped them on their way, and then I know what I'm doing with that now because I can execute it, kind of thing. So yeah, that's quite a good take actually, my friend, I think. But yeah, it's an interesting one. It's a very, very tricky one for me. I think you're quite firm on it maybe, but I know you're a big fan of Hollow Knight as well. So I do. Yeah, and Puxley was. I wonder if Puxley's even wavering. I bet he's quite.
But I mean, I also agree with Puxley, because that's a really great point that it sets them up to. You have to be as good as Hollow Knight, or you suck. Not if you're really harsh, it sort of sets them up to failure in some way. it's just a little sad, I think.
Yeah, definitely, most definitely, my friend. That is a good shout. Yeah, it's tricky. I know it's quite tricky to judge. We're just judging on a trailer at the moment, and the fact that it's Metroidvania and stuff like that. So it'd be much easier to tell when we get into it. I just want to read a couple of really cool comments. Actually, thanks very much for commenting on this, guys. Really appreciate the comments. Graham Lawson has said, in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with a game that takes inspiration from other games, especially since Hollow Knight is no exception to the tried and true practice. Yes, I like that comment. That's great. Well said, my friend. And I'm just going to read Dragon Wolves, which is quite a similar one. He says, Hollow Knight was inspired by previous games and Crowsworn is inspired by Hollow Knight. But as long as the inspiration produces a good game, that's all that matters. Yeah. So, I mean, this is quite a tricky one. I think everyone is going to end up being, there's no right or wrong, I don't think, on this technically, is there?
No. Do you mind if I just read out another comment I've seen as well, actually? Because it's almost like the opposite, but it's equally valid, of course. It's from Assassin Looper here, who says, it looks good, have to see how it plays, but I'm not a fan of rip-offs. I just want some new IPs, to be honest.
Nice.
And I found it interesting, mainly the term rip-off. There's nothing wrong with using that term.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are going to use that term. And again, immediately dismiss it just because it looks like a fake. So similar to as It's There was just saying there, like, if you're not meeting expectation, or, if you're that nervous that you can't create a new IP on your own, then maybe a lot of people out there will just immediately write it off as, it's a Hollow Knight clone, next, and just skip it completely. But it could be a fantastic game.
Well, that's also because the Hollow Knight, I mean, it's a Metroidvania, and yes, it takes inspiration and builds on like game mechanics and such. It was just really solid gameplay, and then sort of made it out to be 2D Dark Souls, But the art style of Hollow Knight, that was unique, and it was beautiful from the get-go. I mean, everyone pretty much agrees on that.
Yeah, because that wasn't copied, the art style. That's right. That's the thing. I think that's what you were getting at, isn't it? You're saying take inspiration in that. That's probably we need to get to Luke quickly because I'm leaving poor Luke waiting there. But I was just going to say, take pieces from other inspiration from pieces of other art, and then add your own take on it. Is maybe kind of exactly. That's what I think you're getting at as well. But don't want to put words in your mouth. But let's get to Luke, my friend.
As long as it's right, it's right words. So. Please.
Yes, indeed. So, Luke, what is your take on this? Definitely very interested now. It's gone lots of different opinions on this. I'm really interested to hear yours, my friend.
Yeah, so I don't want to be too harsh on it. Because if you just look at it in isolation, right, it looks really nice. And the first time I saw this, it was sort of, I had it up on a screen out of the corner of my eye.
Yeah.
And I wasn't fully looking at it, but I was taking glimpses and kind of mentally as I was doing, I think I was doing an email at the time, but I was like, oh, that looks nice, that looks cool. And then when I came back to it, I was kind of in my head straight away was, I think as everybody has said, was Hollow Knight. And then I sat down and watched the trailer fully, and I was kind of really disappointed by it because I think I pretty much fully agree with It's There on this one, which is that there's a difference between Metroidvania is essentially a genre of its own now, right? And nobody would ever accuse Hollow Knight of ripping off a classic Metroid game,
it's true.
A Castlevania game, or anything like that, because it's its own unique thing, and there's no issue with using a genre or being inspired by a genre, right? And an example of that, which is done well, is something like, I think a lot of people now would say Soulsborne is a genre or a subgenre of its own, right? Dark Souls style games.
Yeah.
But you have something like Dark Souls / Bloodborne, and then you have a game which is clearly inspired by it. Let's take probably one of the best ones, which is Neo. But Neo is very much its own thing. It feels completely different. It looks completely different. It's using the same genre, and some of the mechanics are similar. But nobody looks at Neo and says that's a rip-off of Dark Souls, Bloodborne, anything like that. It's its own thing. Here, it's not just that this game Crowsworn's using a genre, right? That it's a Metroidvania. It's that it looks like Hollow Knight. Like if you were to tell most people this is a spin-off game from Hollow Knight, I think they'd probably believe you. They'd go, oh, okay, what's it about? And I think that's the real issue of it. It looks really nice, but you just cannot get away from the fact that it looks exactly, in many respects, not everything, of course, but it looks like Hollow Knight. It's not, just artistically it does. The animation is similar. Some of the moves, I think, Indy, as you said, like the sword bounce, right? That's directly from Hollow Knight.
100%, yeah.
Isn't that more of a Metroidvania thing? Like that's sort of a standard move.
Yeah, the Shovel Knight does it as well.
But,
Shovel Knight does that. So that
they
invented
the way that's combined with the animation makes it look specifically like Hollow Knight.
It does.
It's not like a unique move to Hollow Knight.
It's true.
Not,
yeah. The way you strike as well, when you attack and it hits, that sort of animation looks very similar as well. And the way you jump, the hang time you have in the air seems very similar. Yeah. If you know what I mean. Anyway.
Yeah. So. And that's the issue with it. The issue is that not that it takes inspiration. There's nothing wrong with taking inspiration. Games do that all the time. Games can be really derivative of each other, but they all tend to feel very unique because they're not directly copying all facets of the game that they're inspired by. Whereas this feels like the devs just adored Hollow Knight. And they sat down and started making something and kept going until one day they looked at what they'd made and got and just kind of discovered that, oh, we've made a Hollow Knight. Like that's what we've done. So and it's a shame because clearly they're very talented to make a game like this, to make it look like it does, and there are some unique elements to it. I mean, I'm not denying that. I don't think.
That's that.
But it just leaves a sour taste in your mouth, I think, and it's just not, I don't really want to buy a Hollow Knight looking game if it's not made by Team Cherry. Do you know what I mean? What's the point? I might as well just wait for Silksong. So I'm conflicted by it because the premise itself is super cool and I really like it. But I don't like anything else about it because it just looks like Hollow Knight.
Yeah, it's so tricky. My first reaction was like, I love it, you know what I mean? But then I was like, oh god, it's a bit similar. And then you know what I mean? It's tricky. But like, what I'm hoping will happen is we will hear more and more about it later, and then maybe they will take it in a slightly different route, or there'll be something that comes up that actually differentiates it quite well. The problem is, right, is artwork and animations and the visuals are probably the one thing you don't want to copy, if you see what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. but you still have, like, the characters are clearly not from Hollow Knight. It's not bugs. It's not it's the whole own world and the whole own story and all that. And why did they make the environment look like Hollow Nest?
Yeah, it's so tough one. But like, I'm still open to it for sure. I don't want to slag them off completely. Like, this is just the trailer they've shown. They're going into the Kickstarter.
I wish them all the best in the world. It's
definitely. They're on a long journey still yet. This is not coming out tomorrow, you know what I mean? This is the Kickstarter trailer and it looks bloody amazing for considering it's so early, if you know what I mean, as well.
Yeah. I mean,
that's actually, Indy. Is there an estimated release date for this at all yet?
When I clicked on it, it was coming soon, Kickstarter coming soon, and you know that screen. So I think it's, I couldn't even get in to sort of back it or anything like that at that stage.
Oh, okay.
So, by the way, guys, this is it's Mongoose Rodeo is the developer, by the way. So if you want to follow these guys on Twitter, it's at Mongoose Rodeo. I'll put it in the description after. I forgot to put it in before, but let me just copy and paste that because someone's reminded me that I forgot to say that. But yeah, if you go to their Twitter, you can find the link to the page to check out the Kickstarter. That is, I'm just going to put that. That's.
And please don't be jerks to them.
Don't be horrible to, because there is a lot of hate going around. It's interesting because one of the big YouTubers, the Hollow Knight YouTubers, he said he was very, like I said earlier, he's very much in the boat. don't worry, don't slag off games for just taking inspiration. This is fine, basically. It's so interesting. This is quite a divisive topic, really. But I can't help but feel it is similar and draws a lot of inspiration. I mean, I kind of like the Plague Doctor sort of character.
That's super cool.
Yeah, pretty cool. Like, that's good. Imagine if there was bugs, that would be a total write-off. Then it would be like, you've copied it. But like, it's cool. The the backgrounds, the depth is similar, obviously. But there's a lot of games that do that 2D, 2.5D thing now. So, but there are similarities in the way it's done, I think. And like I say, visuals and animations and stuff like that definitely I definitely think you maybe want to avoid copying directly, because they're what people see and they think, oh, look, exactly the same. If you drew on like some sort of combat upgrading mechanic or whatever, or the systems or something like that, then that's probably safer, isn't it? But people see it and they think, but yeah, like I say, I still think it looks great, and I'm gonna hold hopes that it will hopefully carve out a bit more of its own identity, possibly as the development goes on. That would be super awesome, because it's got so much potential. But
definitely. And I also think that, like, I really hope that what we're seeing in the trailer is just a vertical slice. Like, it hopefully can be changed, in my opinion, but it's probably not. That is probably the final look. So, yeah. I mean, one can hope.
Definitely, one can definitely. I don't think it's that close that Stubbs says Team Cherry take legal action ? No, I don't think it's anywhere near that. It's not. Yeah, it's definitely not that. But it's just the kind of, it's an interesting one. It's raised quite a few questions either way. People dividing on opinions and stuff like that. But yeah, it's great to hear from the chat as well on this one. I think. Back from the Dead said, do you think this is a product of indie games getting more spotlight? They possibly get a unique style from isolation. Does anyone have any takes on that? Not sure where he's quite going, maybe. I don't know. I probably feel like this could happen in any. Sorry, you were going to say the same way potentially. I think it's not really.
I was just going to say, I do understand where the start of that comment's going about, where you've got those specific indie games, which again, Hollow Knight is very much in the spotlight, to the point, as we were saying earlier in the show, that games like Silksong, when I was saying actually we don't think they qualify for an indie world because they're that big and popular that they now qualify for a massive E3 spotlight. So I think there's definitely that level of prominence for certain indie titles that they have that space. I know this game isn't quite as big as Hollow Knight, but it's still very big and popular nonetheless, which is, Cuphead, which I think we all know and love, which obviously took on the very unique development process of manually drawing all of the frames, old school style. And of course, its style is very unique to the gaming space anyway, like 1930s cartoons. That's not really been done before in recent years, to the point it makes it completely unique. And I think there was another game that, it was either in Kickstarter or it was due to be released. I can't remember the name of it, but there was another game that was coming out which had that same art style. And again, people then was on the bandwagon of, oh, you're just a Cuphead clone and you're not that good. Like, why are you even bothering, kind of thing. So I don't know whether or not for certain titles which do gain this level of popularity, like, do you have to wait a certain amount of time before you begin to almost take direct inspiration from it, do you reckon? Or do you, like this game, this game could be fantastic, but again, on the panel and in the chat, we're already seeing people quite divisive as to, it's a rip-off, I'm not going to bother with it, to, well, I'll give it a chance, but I'm always going to see it as a Hollow Knight clone, So, how long do you leave it until you almost make what is a carbon copy? Yeah, there was that other game. Do you remember the other one that was dubbed as a Hollow Knight copy about a year ago, maybe? Do you remember that one? It was, you played like, what was it called? I can't remember the name of it now. But that turned out to be quite I was going to say a hollow game then, but that's quite funny. That's quite weird. Yeah, it did turn out to be quite a shallow game, essentially, and didn't have much to it. But the visuals had that sort of style again to it, like with the 2.5D and the... But there was also, what's that called? Just in the indie world, sorry for cutting you off. No, go ahead, my friend. Well, we had the game like Skull, which is very clearly inspired by Dead Cells. It's roguelike, it's pixel art, it's fast, it looks fun. There's lots of stuff going on the screen, and it's even have something that has worked together with Dead Cells to create something in the game. But it's still its own unique game. Nobody was saying when Skull came out, oh, it's a
Dead Cells clone. It's just like you can make your own thing without it looking looking so much like another game, and it's sort of the opposite feel I'm getting from Crowsworn.
I'd argue though, that even like games like Skull, I think they do look distinctly different enough from things like Dead Cells.
Yeah,
personally.
exactly. Yeah.
So I think because Dead Cells, even though it was a pixel game, it kind of very cleverly did it so it kind of looked 3D. Is that right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
There is a really close game though to Dead Cells, which I cannot remember the name of either. My brain's not working today. It begins with an F, I think. It's called Foregone. Have you seen Foregone? Anyone?
I feel like it rings a bell, but I can't remember it from the top of my head.
That one really looks like Dead Cells. I literally thought it was. If you search Foregone, as in like Foregone, it looks really Dead Cells. And the other one that I was trying to think of, the Hollow Knight one, was Gleamlight. Do you remember? Does anyone see Gleamlight when it came out? Which seemed quite similar to Hollow Knight as well. A lot of people were saying. But yeah, I think
yeah.
You talking about Foregone now, are you, or Gleamlight?
That was Gleamlight.
Gleamlight, yeah.
I agree on both of them, and Gleamlight has mostly negative out of 59 reviews.
Yeah, 42 on Metacritic by the internet as well.
That's not
good. I think Foregone was doing quite well, I think, but
definitely.
Did that score quite well, that one? Yeah.
It's very positive.
I thought it was.
It's almost just launched. So
it looks super similar in my opinion on that one, but people give it a pass, I guess. So, I mean, that looks more similar to Dead Cells in my opinion than potentially this does. I would say to Hollow Knight. Potentially about the same, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting topic though. I just want to quickly get to a couple of quick comments. And I asked Smokeback Official because I do believe Smokeback Official is a developer as well, by the way. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's working on a game at the moment. If it's he or a she, I've had conversations. I don't think it's a he. But anyway, the inspiration is cool, but the art style is what's killing them. Where if one is not told, they would think, I think that's supposed to be, it's Team Cherry that made it too. Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Sorry about my terrible reading there, guys. Reading one word at a time instead of a sentence.
That's basically what Luke was saying as well, isn't it? Luke looked at this at the corner of his eye, and even then he was like, is that Hollow Knight? Exactly,
yeah. So, and then he went on to say, you can get inspired by a game play, but art style is what makes each game unique. Yeah, that's what, again, I said as well, it's one of the things you wouldn't avoid if you're going to copy, if you know what I mean. But yeah,
I mean, mechanics can make your game unique as well, but art style is definitely a really big thing, especially in indie games where you don't have a budget to go AAA and make photorealistic.
Exactly,
things.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, definitely, guys. This has been awesome, but we have been going for quite a while, so we should probably wind it up there. And we'll save that E3 topic for another show, I do believe, because E3 is not going anywhere soon. It's going to be in June, so we will have plenty of time to talk about those upcoming game showcases another time. And I think, we've been going quite a while, and we've got into some juice today. I think we got into some juicy topics. It's been a lot of fun. It's been divisive topics, which I enjoy. I actually really like those kind of things because that's what it's all about, is everyone sharing their opinion. And it's good when people disagree and, we get some interesting takes on things. But yeah, it's been so much fun, guys. I'll tell you what we're going to do today, just as a fun one. I'm going to do the outros and stuff, but maybe if you want to shout out one indie game that is, on your outro as well, just to shout out to people to check out that you kind of recommend, maybe a hidden gem or anything you want, really, but we'll do that in a second. But I just want to say thank you so much, firstly, to my man, It's There. It's been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you again, my friend. Like I say,
thank you so much for having me once again.
My pleasure.
It was really fun.
Yeah,
I don't think we disagreed a lot.
No, yeah, no, it was good.
I liked everyone. We had different views on the same in the same direction, so that was
definite. Nice. Yeah, no, it was healthy. It was good. It was wholesome stuff. You were awesome as excuse me. You were awesome as always. And yeah, thank you so much for being part of it, buddy. We'll definitely do this again. And yeah, would you like to shout out your channel, etc., and where they can find you?
Yeah, I mean, they can firstly being not selfish, I'll shout out a game.
Yes, lovely.
And I think everyone should grab a buddy and play It Takes Two.
Oh, yeah.
Because that is, wow, what a game. It was an emotional roller coaster, mostly downhill. It makes you super sad, but super engaged. And
nice.
There's so much imagination in that. That it was just, it's it's a contender to Game of the Year for me already. It was so good. I mean, it did have some problems, but they were really minuscule in comparison to how good the overall product was. So yeah, grab a buddy. Yeah, you don't have to pay for it twice. You can buy it once, and then your buddy can download a friend pass, and then you can play together. So that's amazing, really.
Definitely, that's a great shout. Yeah, a lot of people are loving that game, which is awesome. Even people who don't play kind of those kind of games normally are getting into it, which is really cool to see. They've done amazing things.
It's the best puzzle co-op experience I've had since Portal 2 co-op campaign, and that's saying a lot.
Nice. Very good stuff.
And I can just sort of turn that around into my channel because I just today uploaded a one breath review of It Takes Two.
Oh,
so
sweet.
Everyone should go see that on my channel.
Nice. He's planned that
Links
well.
in the description.
That is beautiful. I'll definitely be checking that out. Those one breath reviews. It's pretty amazing. And yeah, like he says, it's in the description below. And you've got a quick request before we move on, and that's from Pixel Slab. But he wants you to say. You actually wanted me to say it, but I want you to say it. He wants you to say "It's there" from the song. I think you cut out then when you did it.
No! I was trying to go for the noodle.
The noodle.
Yeah, she's called Noodle, the one that's singing.
Oh, nice. He's got the knowledge. I think we missed that. We might have got it. I don't know. It might cut out.
It's there.
Beautiful,
to take it down a notch.
Thank you. Sorry for the pressure there.
yeah,
But,
exactly.
you've done awesome, my friend. Thank you so much for being part of it. And let's move on to my man, Luke Steele. He is always awesome. It's always such a pleasure hanging out with Luke on the show. He's such a vast knowledge of indie games and an awesome guy to boot. And thank you so much for being part of it once again, Luke. What game would you like to shout out, and where can they find you, my friend?
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, always awesome being here, Indy. You know that, and it's always a pleasure hanging with you and everyone else. The game I would shout out, which you should listen to, Indy, because we've had this discussion
here we go. I know what it is.
multiple times. Is Outer Wilds.
Knew it.
I think it's still on Game Pass. If it's not,
Beautiful.
then it's not that expensive. It is one of the best games ever made. It is an indie game.
Beautiful.
It started off, I think, as basically a university project. That quickly span out into its own thing and became this incredible experience. It's stuck with me for probably 2 years since I completed it.
Amazing.
And it's amazing. I really would recommend that people go and check it out. It's a very special experience. And also a small shout out to Celeste as well, which is which is amazing.
That's more like it.
Which is also memorable.
You're gonna have to teach me the ways about Outer Wilds, because I played it for about 2 hours. I couldn't get into it, but I know you will teach me the ways, my friend.
I will. Even if I have to find where you live and make you play that game, you will play it and complete it and appreciate it for what it is, which is a fantastic.
Brilliant. I hear so many good things about it. Like Rock Paper Shotgun. The guy Matthew, I forgot his surname. Do you know Rock Paper Shotgun guy?
Oh yeah,
he absolutely loves that game, doesn't he? He's awesome as well. But yeah, sorry I interrupted you.
Like a reverse Taken. I will find you and I will make you play.
I will make you play the Outer Wilds. That'd be a more interesting film, I think. So yeah, and you can find me on Green Pass Gaming every Sunday with Pucks, who will no doubt plug the same. And yeah, awesome time. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant stuff, Luke. You rock big time, brother. Thank you so much for being here. I love it. I love hanging out with you. But yeah, Puxley, my friend, his partner in crime from the Green Pass Gaming crew, is. I feel like I get too many Green Pass Gaming guys on here, but I can't get enough of all you guys, to be quite honest. I'm sorry.
We're just that decent. I mean,
It's the truth, though. When I'm thinking who I want to get on, I want to get on people who I know are knowledgeable, passionate, and I have a great time with who are great people. So I can't resist inviting you on. But yeah, thank you so much for being a part of it again. Once again, Puxley, you rock big time. And yes, what game would you like to shout out, and where can they find you, bro?
Yeah, sure. I mean, as always, Indy, thank you very much for having me on once again. Love being part of the panel. Love talking indie games with everyone that comes on. It's such a good laugh. Really enjoy it. One game I would like to recommend is actually one I discovered by accident earlier this week on browsing the Switch eShop. I even tweeted out to the developer just saying really enjoyed the game, and he actually responded thanking me for it, which I thought was really cool. It's a game called Tori 3D, TOREE, and then 3D, and it's it's only about an hour long, and it only costs $1 or 89p in the UK.
Nice.
So you have no excuse not to try it out.
That's true.
But it's a PlayStation 1 style graphics 3D platformer game. And I think it was made as part of some horror-based game jam, but it's not a horror game in the slightest. It's just a simple 3D platformer. It only takes about an hour to complete casually as well, which is good fun. If you collect all of the collectibles in all of the 9 levels, I think you unlock one character. And if you like the game, you can aim to get an A rank in all of the levels, and you unlock a second character. But as I say, it's only about an hour or 2 hours worth of gameplay. Casual 3D platforming. It's great fun. Please check it out. And that's on Switch, Steam, and itch.io as well.
Very
so
nice.
PC and Switch. But please, it's so cheap. I want you guys to play it if you love those kind of games.
I love that. Is that the one you shared on Twitter as well?
It is, yes.
Yes, nice. So follow him on Twitter and you'll see it there as well. And I'm sure he'll tell you where.
If you go onto my Twitter page, at PuchTheAR, you can scroll down. You should see a game, Tori 3D. You should see me tweet out something, and there's a little trailer there as well. Or just Google it. Outside of that, you can find me as part of the Green Pass Gaming crew, live every Sunday at 8 p.m, along with Luke Steele, Flap, and SX2, Scott. And that's where I reside as well. So no, thanks again, Indy. Really enjoy being on the show.
Oh, thank you, buddy. That means a lot. It's so great to have you. It's a great time. I had a lot of fun tonight. It's been some good fun times, even though we had less people in than usual. I'm not too sure where everyone is, but it's all good. It's fun. It's hanging out with buddies. The chat has been amazing. You guys are so great in the chat. So thank you so much for being part of it. Just want to shout out a few of you guys while we just before we wind up. Pixel Slapper, it's been an absolute pleasure having you in the chat. Thank you very much for being in there, bringing some great takes. Who else? We had UK Dazarus, my Dazcast brother. How you doing, Dazzy baby? Thank you so much for hanging out with us, bro. Always bringing the comedy to the chats. Maysuko is in the house. Thank you very much for being here, Maysuko. You rock. Stubbs Gaming, always a great supporter and great friend. Thank you very much for being here, Stubbsy baby. Fun Speculation, thank you so much for dropping by, brother. Always a pleasure. And Phantom Sloth, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Who else? Assassin Looper, of course. Cannot forget Looper. You are a legend, Looper. Thank you so much for all your support in today and all the time that you do. It really does mean a lot. Judzilla in the house. Thank you so much, Judzy, for being here. Smokeback Official. Thank you very much for hanging out with us, my friend. And Graham Lawson, thank you very much for dropping by. I don't think I've seen you before. Dragon Wolf was in too. Back from the dead. Thank you very much for being here. And everyone else who came by, thank you so much, guys. You are legendary. It means the absolute world. But yeah, we are going to wind it up there. I apologize, I've gone a little bit over time. As always, I don't think I'm ever going to not say that, to be honest. I do try, I promise. But yeah, it's been so much fun, guys, chatting indie games. Yeah, go and enjoy those indies. That will make me feel great and wholesome. But if you want to hit me up on Twitter, it is like indie_gamer_01. Do so. It's always great chatting beyond here. And I've dropped the Discord link in the chat. If you wanted to join the Indie Gamer Discord, it would be awesome to have you. And yeah, some great chats go on in there about indie games too, and other stuff as well. But yeah, we're going to wind it up there, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'll be back again 2 weeks today for another Indie Games podcast. And hopefully I'll be getting another video done in the meantime. I actually got the topic all lined up in my head. I know what video I'm making, so it might actually happen. I really will try. Time is always hard. But thank you again for being here. It's been so much fun. And I will see you on the next one. Catch you later, guys.
Bye.